Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Mossberg. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
Mossberg?
Yes, Mossberg.
I thought you did it yesterday, Jeff.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Did I?
I don't know.
I think
double up, Jeff. Double up.
Okay, Mossberg and Stanfield Haying Outfitters.
There you go.
Hold
Dove
on.
season will be here before we know it.
Let me
6
look
months
and
away.
see. Oh, Alpha Outdoor Specialties.
Oh, okay.
I did. I had Wyman down twice. I screwed up.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, well, I script the intro all the time.
Yep.
Going to Knoxville this weekend. So if you are in that Knoxville, Tennessee area and you want Andy's autograph, Andy said everybody that buys him a beer will drink a beer with him.
No, I did not.
Why?
This is work, Jeff. Work. This is a work vacation. Not even a vacation. It's work. It's a work trip.
It's a work trip.
Business trip.
So you don't think you won't drink a beer with everybody that buys you one?
No, I will not.
Okay. Anyways, come out to Bass Classic and come by and see us. We'll be at the Onum and we'll be at the Boss Shot Shells booth. And Andy will be signing autographs. I will be there just to look good and be eye candy. With us today from legendary Knox County, Texas, Miss Dorie Tucker, the rodeo queen, I guess.
Well, I won't say I'm the expert at it, but I've had my fingers in it for a little bit.
So you are Miss Rodeo America. I'm reading your deal there to make sure I get this right. You are on the board there?
I'm on the board of the Miss Rodeo America Scholarship Foundation.
Okay, so you don't pick the queens.
No.
My first question is, to be a rodeo queen, you don't have to have a penis, because this ain't like these other deals, right?
No.
It is.
You cannot have a penis and be a Miss Rodeo queen, right?
No.
Okay,
Perfect. That's American, and that's what it's supposed
an
to be.
absolute.
Yeah.
Good. I figured that just from being around cowboys my whole
Right,
life,
yeah.
the way it would be, because
Right.
I've never seen a he/she cowboy.
Yeah, we're the ye to the haw, but we're not just beautiful, so that's also there. So,
But that is a
Yeah.
prerequisite.
Yeah.
So if a man tried to be your queen,
No
it ain't
bueno.
working. Good.
It is ridiculous. I think the last 2 years, a man has won Woman of the Year.
I wouldn't know about
And they're
that.
hideous looking good.
Yeah, they're not
dudes, too.
good-looking
It's not even
guys.
good. Like my dad told a story one time. He was at a bar one night, and he said this little hottie was down at the end of the bar, and he was like, "Send her a beer down there." And that guy said, And Dad said,
No, send it.
Send her the beer. So Dad walked down there and said, "Would you like to dance?" She goes, "No, thank you, but maybe later I would." He's like, "Oh shit!" And so he walked off. So, anyways,
Pull the ripcord.
but Dad said, "Boy, she was really pretty looking. You couldn't tell."
Yeah, don't let the false eyelashes fool you,
Yeah.
because they will.
You always
They
look for
will.
the
But
give them an Adam's apple check.
But the women that win, like Miss Nevada, I think with the Miss America contest, was a dude, and they're not even pretty. They look like me.
Well, the guy that Biden put in, that's a woman.
The health secretary.
The health secretary. I think he won Miss Brave Woman or something like that.
Y'all are way up more advanced on current events than I am, because I turned the news off about 2 years ago.
I
or
need to.
plus
That's really-
whatever. So, you put in your head what you want to be or who you want to be. So I lean more to, just good stuff.
Well, Miss
So that's
Rodeo,
why I'm here.
Miss Rodeo America, we're
Yeah.
glad to see, is for females only.
Yes.
So
Absolute.
it starts out at the local level, right?
Yeah. Any more young queens in the rodeo genre has become a bigger element than previous, because mamas are getting their babies involved in National Little Britches Rodeo or Little Britches Rodeo, and then they go through the high school arenas, and then they move into college, or they may just, I love horses and this is what I want to be. So a queen in any aspect, princess, teen, or miss, they become an ambassador to the sport of rodeo, and also to the Western way of life, which is what I live, which is really what you live, even though it's in a hunting genre. We all love just good home-based environment, and that's what our lifestyle is. Agriculture, and that's where we live, Knox County. That's what it is. So it starts out there. It's a good, wholesome program where young girls can, of course, learn poise, personality, speaking, public speaking, which we know advances you through your life. But they love horses. They know how to ride. They can represent in an arena or on a stage or impromptu or whatever. So it's a really great curriculum to advance and make women be prominent and, be able to express themselves and represent something of quality.
I think the internet and technology in general has connected the country life and the city life so much more than it used to be. Where if you were out here in Knox County and your friends were in Wichita Falls, where I grew up at, or in Abilene, there was a big disconnect. It was 100 miles and it's a whole different world.
Right.
Well, today it's automatic. You're connected with them, so you can take that country life and put it in the middle of the city life and be involved. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's easier to do business and do things like that. And these girls are getting a head start in life by being exposed to all this stage stuff and having to do, I guess they have to do interviews.
Oh, yeah. Usually a contest for any, rodeo queen contest encompasses poise, personality, public speaking, written test of knowledge, horsemanship. And of course, beauty or whatever, but their ability to succeed in all those. Queen clinics are prolific anymore, held by quality former Miss Rodeo Americas or women that are industry leaders in the Western lifestyle or the Western industry, to give young upcomers those boosts in learning how to do. But of course, you can't know it. You can learn it in your head, but until you actually put your hand in it and do it, you learn really. You've got a stumbling block you need to work on. And so it's a fail, make. Some girls run for a title 4 times before they win the title. Well, that's just the growth process. And kudos to her that sticks with it, because you're not going to get it every time, because there's a panel of judges that is their personal opinion to what the industry standard sets for Miss Rodeo or whatever. And so you've just got to do good in it and believe in yourself and move on, take it and go on, get up and go do it again until you're ready to change that lane.
I'm sure there are some crazy mamas that push their daughters in this.
Kind of like the beauty pad.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Queen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of that going on?
There is, but I think in the Western Miss Rodeos, for that example, I think the moms are much more reality based because their kids probably show in 4-H or FFA, and they understand the work ethic that goes into that, and then moms, of course, want their kids to be involved in things that are wholesome and good. I had experience. I'm from Mississippi, Louisiana. I kind of straddled the line, and my mom and dad allowed us to compete in Miss Mississippi United Teenager Pageant, and I won the speech contest there. That kind of was a catalyst to moving. I wasn't just ed up with, if you will, going and being a queen contestant, but I did that, and it just showed. I was Miss Hospitality for our local county, ran for that contest, didn't win it. School pageant, whatever, didn't win it, but still there was something. And then someone introduced me to be run for Miss Rodeo Louisiana. Well, my dad was from Louisiana, Baton Rouge, actually. And so my feet are wet in both sides of southern Mississippi and Louisiana there, and I just straddled the line kind of thing and was involved in all that. And my family, we farmed, we had cattle, we hunted 900 days a year, so that's what you do. And so I was ingrained in all of that, but it gave me, it was my vehicle out of small town Mississippi into the next level of my life. I'm an LSU Tiger. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
But when you go to college and you become that, then your world starts changing because of the people you meet. And that was one of my things. My dad was one of those gentlemen that was friendly to everybody, talked to everybody. And so 3 rules in life. Always eat dessert first, when you're in and reunions are a big thing in Mississippi, and it all encompasses food and every kind, good food. So always eat dessert first. You're never lost if you've got a full tank of gas. And that was that lesson you learned.
Truth there.
Make sure your tank is full, because I'm not coming to get you anymore. So that is true, though. If you've got a full tank, you're never lost. And thirdly, always speak to people. And he would say, don't say, hi, how are you? And pass on. He said, find out who they are and where they're from and what do they do. He said, because you will be astonished at how incredibly small the world is. And I will tell you that that's my life. I took him up on that, and I've had a few occasions where that came to fruition on the front side, and I was like, oh my gosh, my dad is right. He got the first two right, but yes, he knows. And today, people say, oh my gosh, Dorie, you know everybody. And I was like, no, I don't know everybody. I just speak to people, and I find that common thing, which immediately you become part of their group.
It's easy to find people that have a common thread if you start talking to them.
Exactly. So that's kind of, I love people. I don't know that I love to eat dessert like my dad did, but
well, I do.
I love to travel, but I drive, I don't fly. So, I think for the most part, it's a separate niche for Western or rodeo queens in that it's a wholesome environment. They can learn those characteristics, young gals can learn those characteristics that are going to stay with them for the rest of their life and possibly catapult them into the next level of life or the next thing, that is toward their dream. And it's good. It's just good stuff.
Well, anytime you have people competing for anything, it's going to make people better.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be some bad sides. There's Tanya Harding. What was the name? Nancy Kerrigan. Remember that? Yes. The ice skaters.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the girl that beat the girl more than the girl that got beat. But competition's good.
Yeah.
And it makes a good deal. Now, country girls are different than city girls.
Yeah.
And y'all are, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to use my words wisely here so I don't say something bad. It's good for them to compete and to do stuff. What is the...
Boy, you abandoned that ship, didn't you?
Yeah, I got out of that real fast.
I'm gone.
Away from that real fast. I want to change the subject quick. What do you think about men barrel racing? That was my question. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay. Well, in a lot of fronts, for instance, the American Quarter Horse Association has all lanes of competition with quarter horses. One of those is showing horses in the barrel racing competition, and men who are trainers run the barrels. In that setting, you're not looking at the person riding the horse, but you're judging the horse because of their quality. And
this is a political answer you're giving.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
it's I'm circling the wagon, but still, in the WPRA, Women's Professional Rodeo Association, men don't run barrels.
But what about like at the American, the guy?
Did he run barrels?
Well,
they ran barrels at the American?
They
Last
have.
year they have.
I've witnessed it.
It's embarrassing.
It's odd, but there is a place, and I'm glad. I mean, it's not like he's. He's all man, I guess. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
It's not like he's running where he has an advantage because men are more faster and bigger than women.
Exactly. In other sports.
It's the horse.
But it's embarrassing.
Is it?
I think so. As a man, if you showed up at a rodeo to barrel race and you're like, what are you here for?
Well, you feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
Not so much
I got
for
to
men
tell you
in
something.
general.
I got to tell you something. My husband, Roy, and he's an Arizona native, all cowboy, okay? His family, 4th generation in Arizona, so everything's been on the ranch, horseback, da-da-da. His mother and dad were one of the founders of the AJRA, Arizona Junior Rodeo Association, which was really big back in that day. And so we're decorating the house. We moved and everything, and I have a bunch of Roy's old photos of him calf roping and riding a steer or whatever. He's not a steer rider, but went to the team roping lane. But there's a picture of Roy running the barrels. And I put it up on the wall,
I bet he was.
You don't have to put that there.
Yeah.
I said, but that's just so cute. That's just so cute. But you did it. You did it though. But see, you get your feet wet, so to speak, in now for Roy, that's not real masculine at all, and I don't think it's masculine for anybody.
He's probably not liking you telling the story.
He probably doesn't, but he won't know I did it until he listens, if he does. So I won't even tell him about this. But yeah, so I get what you're saying. I know when I went to the American, a few years ago, this was the 10th, and I didn't realize that time had gone by so fast. But I went to one where a gentleman had run barrels there, and I thought, oh, this is odd, you know, but I guess if you know the structure of the American, it gives you a better perspective of it, because it's not your typical rodeo where everybody enters and you can come, you know, you're either invited or you've won the right to be there because you're a former world champion. So those things are, you know, elements that are a little bit different. But I can see where you would be.
I think it's embarrassing. I do. When he pulls up in the parking lot, you know, them other guys are laughing their ass off. There's the old barrel racer
with
over
an
there.
inline trailer or a big, I mean, it's probably a big aluminum. And horse people, you know, whether they've got the dough or not, they're driving dough, and their horses themselves are worth, you know.
I would love the backstory on how he got into. Could he not do it? Make it somewhere. See, that's the way I look at it.
Let's
you can't
find
compete.
Out. We can maybe have him come.
I don't know if I
Honker.
want. I don't know if I want to do a podcast with him.
Oh,
I don't know if
you
there'd be
never
enough
know.
to talk about.
He might be the Marlboro Man in disguise right
No,
there. You know.
he wouldn't be doing barrel racing.
Well,
What do you think your son-in-law thinks of a man barrel
Not
racing?
going to go there.
See,
Not going to go
because we
there.
both know that answer.
Yeah, probably. Oh, I think he appreciates good horsemanship, but yeah, let's just don't go there.
No, Jake's like, no.
Was it a culture shock going from Louisiana, Mississippi to all the way out to Arizona? I mean,
Yes.
there's, you know, great food. I've said the best food comes from Louisiana. Like,
Hands down.
and then out there, all you got's green chili on.
You went to Kunash University too, the best food in the world.
Yeah, I've got my papers.
Can you
or
cook?
some papers.
Can you cook it?
Can I cook it? I
Yes.
can cook it and eat it. Do you like crawfish?
Yes.
And who doesn't?
They're messy, but
They're a pain
lot
to
of
eat.
work.
They're not messy.
It's a lot
I
of
will
work.
tell you
it's
that
a lot of work.
They're not
Roy-
messy.
Yeah, they're not
Oh.
a lot of work. They're not messy. In fact, we have a crawfish bowl every. We're gonna have it Good Friday at my house over here. Order them in, they come in. So you're on the hook. You're invited.
Not change subject. Did you know at HEB you can buy them where they cook them for you now?
HEB.
HEB has a commercial now. They've got
know
them.
that.
Yeah,
Cool.
during a certain time of year, you can go and buy 20 pounds, 50 pounds. They got them cooked right there in the parking lot. They cook them for you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways, go ahead. So you can
So the-
cook chaffle everything?
I cook. You mean etouffee?
Etouffee, yes. Chaffle is a river.
A Chaffalaya basin.
Chaffle, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all those words, but yeah, I do. I like Southern cooking. I mean, you know, when you're in Mississippi, you have soul food and you also have Cajun Creole.
Who
food.
doesn't love that? 'Cause it's the best food in
yeah,
the world.
Yeah, it
I mean,
is.
I love Italian food and I love Mexican food.
Yes.
And Southern food, we'll compass Cajun food, soul food, all that together. Best food groups in the world. The farther north you get, the worse the food gets.
Awful.
You know, one time I was, and I judged some a queen contests, some state contests. So I was asked to judge the Miss Rodeo Utah pageant, and I've done that twice, which it's a fabulous, and they have it during a great rodeo up there in Ogden, Utah. And we were having a banquet, and I forget what the entree was that we ate. And I asked a gentleman that was our friend, I said, so what is the food group or the food thing here in Utah? I mean, you know, like Louisiana is Cajun food and soul food, and then Mexican food in Arizona and Mexico and all that. What is Utah's? And he said, funeral food.
Funeral food.
Casseroles and that such. And, you know, they do a lot of casserole. And I thought that was the oddest thing. I never thought about it until I was there. You know, what do you eat?
Right.
You eat barbecue in Arkansas or wherever, and
Funeral food.
funeral food, like
Casseroles.
casseroles and stuff, and like Jello casseroles and stuff. And I thought it was odd. So they're gonna kid me too if anybody in Utah listens. But
We have a lot of Mormons that are on here.
I will just tell you that it was the most fantastic 2 weeks of my life being in Ogden, Utah during the Ogden Pioneer
You
Days
should run
rodeo.
for president.
Well, I should.
You just move that right there to how great Utah is.
It is, and
Them
my
and all their
friends are
funeral food,
wonderful, and they excuse my coon ass self, and you know the way I. But you're right, the food is the thing. But I grew up Mississippi, Louisiana, and went to LSU, like you said, and got a taste of that. And then you move on. I got a director of communications job at the Texas Brangus Breeders Association. What was that? Had no experience in that at all. And so I went to Texas Brangus in College Station. So I was over there at the Dumb Aggies for a little bit. And wow.
We have a lot of Aggies that listen to
But
this.
yeah,
They just, you know, they had
tongue-in-cheek,
Gaga dances for a long time. So,
Yeah.
I have been to the Dixie Chicken. I've played pool in there several times. And I probably, my name may not be there still, but it may be in one of the tables. But that was the coolest place. But I loved being there because I was exposed to, yet I went across the Mississippi River, this small town girl, you got to get out sometime. So I was moved into that.
There's not a school in the world has better traditions than Texas A&M, and I'm not an
It
Aggie
is,
by
right.
any means, but
Yeah.
they have a tremendous. But like Andy said, they were having boy dances up until 1979. So there you go.
Yeah, we'll leave that there because I do have a lot of Aggie friends. But and affectionately dumb Aggies, that was kind of my thing, because it was always that competition. And they came into the SEC because they understood.
Yeah.
That just the written word is SEC. You just know.
It cost them a national championship, though.
It
They
is.
just stayed in the Big 12 when Johnny Manziel was there. They'd have won it all. So you go to Arizona.
I leave Texas. I moved to Arizona, to Phoenix. I'm like, where the heck is Arizona even on the map? I
You went from no Mexicans to a lot of Mexicans.
Yeah, big time, quick. Heart of Phoenix. And if you know the Heart of Phoenix, then that was in 87.
Different town than it is now.
Oh, but it was still bad. I mean, I think I was packing then too, but I went to the Arizona Cattle Growers Association as their director of communications. And well, long story short, I was there for about 6 months. I had met Roy the second day on the job. So that's that.
That was it.
At a banquet, of course, it's a different world out there completely from what Mississippi is, because you got public lands, federal, all that. So I remember it was at a cattle growers banquet with Senator John McCain and Bruce Babbitt when they were big in the state house over there. And you don't recognize what you've done until who you've been with, and you see all of John McCain's political stuff and Babbitt and all that. But anyway, so I met Roy the second day on the job there at Arizona Cattle Growers, and I did their magazine publication for about 5-6 issues, and 35 years later, I'm in Knox County. So there's a lot of ground between there, though. We moved back to Kansas
Right.
for 18 years, I guess, had both the daughters and raised them there, and then moved back to New Mexico. Why New Mexico? I guess it was akin close to Arizona, where Roy was from, and we only ranched all of our life, and what a great, blessed life I have.
It's a hard living, though. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, it is, but if that's your thing, of course, that's all Roy ever knew. And then coming back to Texas, it's different here. But when we were in Kansas, we kind of grew into the elements of, say, yearlings, like coming out to the big Honker Lodge out here. Today, I've ridden in the bush, and I've ridden, gathered cattle on some of this wheat, and it's just gorgeous.
Yep.
There's not in Arizona. There's really not. We didn't graze wheat in Kansas, but so it's different from every place we've been, but still the same. You've got that quality of lifestyle. And then my father-in-law said that. He said, it's a quality of lifestyle. It's not something you're going to get rich quick at. You're going to work, 8 days a week. And that's good, because that's what you do.
The Arizona ranching is really amazing, because I was reading a story about John Wayne recently. And John Wayne owned a big ranch in Arizona.
Yes.
He was filming one of his shows. I love John Wayne. We need more John Waynes in the world. But I'm not a big movie guy of his. I mean, he filmed a movie in Arizona. He fell in love with the area.
A bunch in Arizona.
And he did. But some of them was on his ranch, but he bought a ranch there, and he grew cotton. And the guy next to him was the best cotton farmer in the area. So he said, hey, I'll tell you what, let's partner up on my place. And they started doing cotton together. Then they got into the cattle business. And
where was that? Where in Arizona? What?
You look up, he still has a ranch there. You can look it up somewhere, John Wayne's Arizona Ranch. But it's an interesting story. He was a big part of that community. And when he would go there, he wasn't John Wayne. He was, what was his name? Marion Morris or whatever his name?
26 Bar Ranch. Does that mean anything?
And where?
Let me pull it up. Near Eager? Eager?
Yeah.
And from, let me see.
But he was just a regular guy in town there.
Yeah. And I really, I'm going to, somewhere in my back of my file in my mind says that John Wayne visited a ranch there where Roy grew up. Roy's family grew up around Roosevelt Lake, Arizona.
Where is that at?
If you heard of the Salt River.
Nope.
It's south of Payson.
I've been to Payson before. That's in the mountains, right?
Yeah.
That's from the Petrified Forest going south towards Phoenix. You go through Payson, right?
Correct.
Okay, I've been there before.
All right, Phoenix Metroplex, northeast of Phoenix is Roosevelt, and my mother-in-law went to school in the town of Roosevelt, and when Teddy was president, he built a dam, the first dam there at the head of the Salt River.
I'm reading his book right now.
Okay, so they dammed up and flooded the town of Roosevelt and built Roosevelt Dam, which is at the head of the Salt River. And the Salt River, I think, splits the San Carlos Indian Reservation and the forest land. So it's just big country. When I say big country, it's just awesome, huge big country, but it's beautiful. And that's Roy's legacy. And then his dad was raised at Tonto Basin, which is a small little blip south of Payson in the mountains. Hard life, 8th grade education, but, lived the longest prolific life ever and left, a legacy for Roy to carry on.
Beautiful. Arizona is a very underrated state when it comes to beauty. I mean, you've got the saguaro cactus in the south, which is, until you've seen them in person, you just cannot believe. How do you say it? Saguaro? Saguaro cactus.
Yeah,
they say cactus, though?
Cactus.
Okay, cactus is what. Saguaro is what it is.
Saguaro.
I've been saying that wrong my whole life.
Your entire life.
Hey, you're a gringo. I'm a gringo.
And then when you go towards Vegas, you got the Joshua trees, and then you get up around the Grand Canyons. Flagstaff's one of the prettiest cities, prettiest towns in America. Beautiful place.
He bought 50,000 cattle acre ranch near Eager from the Mars Candy family and raised prize Hereford cows and premium beef breed. The Mars family called it the Milky Way 26 Bar Ranch. And then the Circle K founder bought it from the Duke's estate after he passed away from lung cancer.
Yeah.
So Earl,
I think a lot of his movies, I think, were filmed, because Tombstone had the fake city or whatever, old town or whatever, and was known, I think, for movie settings and sets and that sort of thing. So, but the whole, Roosevelt Lake area. And then there were a couple of 2 or 3 other dams that were built below that on that Salt River that actually that water waters the Metroplex of Phoenix.
That he did a lot for Arizona and he loved it, but that's his place in heaven, he said, was to be in Arizona at his ranch. But he built a set on one of his movies, and they did the same thing in Texas. I think somewhere around Presidio, they built the actual Alamo, another Alamo. When they filmed the movie The Alamo, they filmed it all out there. My wife, listen to this. Now Michelle's a beautiful blonde, but she is really blonde sometimes. And we were in there.
I shouldn't laugh at that, right?
We were in San Antonio and we went to the Meager. The Meager's in San Antonio, not Fort Worth. Famous old hotel built in, the late 1800s, I think. It's where one of the King Ranch, one of the heirs threw his mistress off the balcony and killed her. Anyways, we were having a drink in there one night. We weren't eating, we were having a drink in there. And she goes, I wonder how busy it was around here when the Alamo was going on, the actual battle. I'm like, huh? Jesus. She's like, do you think there were people staying here? I said,
she didn't say that.
Yes, I swear to God, she did.
You're making that up.
No,
you gotta be
no.
You're gonna try throw her under the bus.
Oh, she threw me under the bus on a woman's podcast the other day, so this is fair game. So I told her, I go, are you serious, Michelle? She goes, what? And she kind of giggled. I said, there was nothing here. She goes, this wasn't here? I said, no. I said, it was just the Alamo. It was just a mission out in the middle of nowhere.
Hold on. You call it the Meager?
The Meager.
It's Menger.
Minger. Yes, Minger.
It was built in 1857.
Yeah, when was the Alamo? Look it up when the Alamo was.
I think 1860s. So
please don't make me look like a fool on this deal because I made fun of her.
Well, I'm just going to plead the fifth.
No, the Alamo was like 1836 or something.
Was it?
I think. I don't know.
Yeah, 1836.
Okay, that's what I was right. So anyway, she was 20 years off. But I was like, no, Michelle, there was San Antonio was nothing more than a mission.
It was out in the middle of nowhere too, and it's hard to think that where we are was nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, we're so spoiled to convenience anymore, and the get there, be there. I mean, I drove to Mississippi and didn't think about it just this last week.
That was a 10-day trek or more than that. It's probably 3 weeks, a month to get to Mississippi from here. A wagon train could go 20 miles a day?
I don't know.
I think about 20 miles a day.
If you watch 1883, you'd think it.
I will not watch it.
Well, now, okay, you didn't watch that one. The 19 whatever.
I won't watch any of his stuff.
10 to 20 miles a day is all they could go.
I'm gonna ditto that.
Too much yellow. I won't watch Yellowstone no more. And I liked Yellowstone. That's
I
what's
love
tough.
that. I thought the storyline was going to be incredible, great watching because there's history there, and that's truth about that. And I think that Mr. Sheridan has done a huge amount of research to really lay that out.
The guy's
correctly.
a genius.
I think
just
he did.
Not a Kevin Costner person, so I won't watch Yellowstone no more.
You're not a Kevin?
No,
Costner?
not at all. He's
I mean,
a
not
fake.
even Lonesome Dove?
No, he's a fake. He's an actor. He's wonderful.
He draws,
okay.
he draws
For that.
weird lines.
He's a fake. He's a fake,
okay.
guy. He plays guys we like.
He's an actor.
He's-
Jeff.
and he's a
That's
very
his
good one.
Well,
job.
that's the thing.
Yes.
You're acting.
That's in his job description.
Okay, so the Yellowstone, I did watch 1883 or
Yeah.
whatever the number is.
And I went out with Faith Hill a long time ago, and she
You
broke my
did?
heart. So
okay,
I
break.
never-
Well, we need to take a break.
yeah,
right
so I
now,
have no use
guess.
for her or Tim.
But I think the storyline on that is really interesting because I know a lot of history from say New Mexico and Arizona, and it is flavors that even today. But I'm like you. I haven't watched Yellowstone. Not that I'm, I just think he did a great job on that. And if I said anything else, that show and its sequels have brought the Western lifestyle to it's generated revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the 4 6s.
I'm not sure if it's given the correct appeal to what our life really is. You know what I'm saying? It's a wholesome,
Right.
hardworking, integrity-filled life for the biggest part of that.
So the
You know,
cray-cray, drunk, crazy, blonde-headed woman is not the normal deal.
Oh, I don't think. I mean, do I look like?
No.
Well, I'm cray-cray. Yeah, I could be cray-cray sometime, but most of the time I'm not. But you know what I'm saying? And I don't know. Life has all of those elements in it, but back in the day, it was just a little bit more hidden.
It was a hard scrabble life.
Oh, and so for that, I applaud the fact that we've made an awareness and we sell a lot of boots and hats, but I really want people to get it about. It's a quality of lifestyle, and that includes integrity. That includes fairness and God-fearing. Even, I mean, because you can't do this without having some bigger reason or faith. I
If
mean,
you don't have
look at the
faith in
seasons.
God, look at your life in general.
Look at the seasons.
Yeah, it's just. I mean,
last year we were on wheat fields that looked like our table here,
Right.
and then today it's lush. So go figure, something's doing that. But anyway,
what Taylor Sheridan did to the cowboy living and the ranching life is basically like Duck Dynasty did to the waterfowl. It brought a lot of attention to hunters, and it got a lot of people interested. Now, I don't know if we've kept them because if you look at hunting license sales, it might. But it was a good little shot in the arm.
how big a percentage of our hunters now? We hunt a lot of people from out of state. We hunt someone from about 42 states a year on average are here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say every day we've got people out of state. I'm going to say over half our hunters are out of state hunters. Guess how many of them go to the 4 6s?
All
a
of them.
ton of them.
just to go see it.
Just because they watch
Buy a
TV. Want to buy a hat.
Buy a
I
hat.
saw hats. Logan Pyatt, he's a fanboy anyways, and he's comes out here, and he knows how I feel about all of this because I'm not a Costner fan. He comes in wearing a 4 6s hoodie one day, and I was like, gosh.
No, do
almighty.
it.
And
Don't
he did
do
it
it.
on purpose just because he knows how I feel. I think it's been great for our area.
Mm-hmm.
I think Taylor Sheridan is a remarkable
Historian.
he's very good at what he does. I just am not a Kevin Costner, so I've kind of boycotted that. But I'm a hypocrite because I watched Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone and absolutely
chooses
loved it.
his battles.
Yes,
And see, I'm not a
Totally.
Stallone.
I'm not a big Stallone guy,
Yeah.
but I like Italian stuff. I love The
Well, that
Sopranos,
stands to reason, I guess.
and I like Tulsa King. I really did, but I'm not a Stallone guy because I don't like the Rocky movies. The first Rocky I liked. After that, I can't watch them no more. Andy thinks they're great. I'm just
Number
not a Rocky.
4. I'd never said I think they're great.
Well,
I
you
said
see
I
it.
think number 4 is the best Rocky. That's all I said.
Yeah. Well,
When he
once you
fights the
see
Russian.
one, you kind of don't want to go back and rewrite on that. Now, there's some other movies that you'll go watch, like Christmas Vacation or whatever. You watch
Yeah.
that every year. I mean, it's like
That's a great show.
classic. Yeah. So I get what you're saying.
But
now.
Sylvester Stallone is a typical made-up guy. He's 5'3". He could have either been a jockey or an actor, and he turned to become an actor.
An actor.
And he made a great choice.
Yeah.
Back
So-
in the early days of like ranch, has Roy ever talked about like what his dad went through? Like, you always see it in the TV shows. People are trying to steal the ranch or whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was part of the 1883 thing, wasn't it?
Theirs
get
was
up
mostly
there-
like a wagon train going.
What was the one with was Harrison Ford not in 1883?
He's on the next
Okay.
sequel, and
Okay.
we
I
started
haven't watched
watching
that
that,
one
and
yet.
it was just too
Too
much. And really, I don't look at Harrison Ford being a cowboy.
Right.
I
No.
just couldn't get past it, and so I said, better things to do.
But was there that element back in like the early days of everything getting started, where it was this Wild West and just kind of whoever can get this big land grab is gonna stake their claim on this property?
Yeah. Well, it was uncharted territory.
Right.
It's very rough.
Mm-hmm.
Native Americans are a big, big part and go in history. For Roy, just the other day asked me, he said, "Where's all those pottery shards that we found on the ranch in Arizona?" And so I have little baggies full of little shards.
So there was an Indian camp on this.
Oh my
land.
God, the country there is just full of Native American history.
Mm-hmm.
But date back to BC and AD,
Oh,
early
wow.
AD. Yeah, like it's phenomenal. I mean, we had a ranch in in New Mexico, and we'd just go walking out through the country horseback or whatever, and I found 2 or 3 perfect little small, less than an inch, half-inch size points. And it's just almost, for me, it's just like a spiritual thing because someone at some point had to use that for their food.
Mm-hmm.
And how abundant we are today.
Yes.
So, Roy, we look at black and white pottery, and if you were a Native American back then and you crafted their vessels to earthenware to eat and cook and do whatever on, but they were colored in black and white or red and black, and you're looking at with a furrowed brow, Jeff, that,
No,
I
I'm
understand what I'm saying.
The coloring part is what I'm thinking about.
Magnificent. And so there's a lot of history in Arizona, especially where Roy's.
What Indian tribes with the Hopi?
San Carlos Apache is right adjacent. So the Apache and the Navajo, back in the day, there were a lot of Native Americans that were everywhere until the government said, no, we're going to put you, down here at Fort Sumner. And we lived in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, the site of the Long Walk.
Right.
Where they drove the Four Corners natives all the way back down there, and they the Apache and the Navajo just pretty decimated those two nations, and then marched them back with one sheep each. I mean, there's so much history to that it's crazy. But Roy is I'll call it a tracker of all kind, because he's horseback all his life. In that big country, and he knows cool things, and he would come in. We first got married, and he'd come in, and he said, "Look what I found for you today," and he'd be riding, and he'd found a little small squared turquoise piece. Some of things would be indicative of the coastal Indians in California, where they would have traded, like shell or something, they may have traded with those Native Americans in the Arizona area. But Arizona, especially Globe, Miami, which is the town that's close to Roosevelt where they resided, is a big mining town. So that's where turquoise is birthed in copper mining.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Back to the Indian deal a minute ago. You're talking about, you found this pottery.
Mm-hmm.
So did the Apaches make pottery too? Because they were nomadic.
Very. I think it's mostly Navajo or Salado.
And because they were more, it's keeping in their area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an Indian sympathizer, but I'm an Indian. I appreciate what the Indians did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of these people that think we need to give anybody anything just because of what color they are, where they come from.
Well,
But you can't say that they didn't go through.
They got screwed big time. I'm with you 100%.
I will say that they got screwed, but I will also say that that's kind of the way things were.
They were doing that to each other too.
Right.
It's not like the Indians were living in Kumbaya and this was your area of Montana and this was Texas.
No,
they
roamed.
fought and raped and pillaged each other all the time.
But I think that for the most part, the Navajo were a more peaceful, peaceful culture.
And there was different tribes that were that way.
The Apache were a little bit more raucous.
Mm-hmm.
A little more, I would say, yes.
Yeah, and I use that.
And the Comanches were really...
Yeah. So, but they pretty much stayed their kind, if you will, I think. But I think people don't realize the influence that Spaniards had back in that day. And the Spaniards, conquistadors and all that was quite a battle. But Manifest Destiny is what sent white man from the east to the west and
Right.
took over, and then the government said, no, we're going to take all this land and you're going to go to a fort and you're going to be done. And that's really the really nuts and bolts outside view of all of it.
The South Dakota deal was pretty much the icing on the cake of how bad we treated them. We give them the Black Hills, then we find gold in the Black Hills, so we kick them out of the
Nope.
Black
Yep.
Hills. And I'm assuming when they found these turquoise mines, they ran the Indians off of that area too.
Well, it wasn't that the Native Americans, were going to monopolize. They just used it. They lived off the land. I mean,
Right.
they prescribed burn.
Yeah.
That's why it was prolific. Buffalo herds. That's how they used it. It's kind of like hunting. Growing up in Mississippi, I told you my family hunted. I've hunted some sort of version of hunting since I was a baby. But when you hunt, there's a responsible hunting. You kill because you're going to eat it, use it in every,
Conservation.
Exactly. And so that's what the Native Americans, they relied on wildlife and the land to supply their sustenance. That was it. Well, white man was not quite like that. It was a little bit more get in there and it's mine and, taking. We can all share and benefit from all of it. So we want to teach Native Americans how the white man lives. He doesn't want to know.
Right.
No, he was happy with the way. He had a pretty good deal going. I mean, the men hunted and fished, the women did all the work. And the men battled, gambled.
Yeah.
And-
in a Navajo culture, the women are the matriarchs.
They run the house.
They do. They have the purse strings.
That's like some modern day men I know
Yeah,
now.
we won't go there. Let's just because I'm a Southern girl at
Right.
heart. But women have their place. I'll have to say I got 2 girls that are following their footsteps. I got a mother-in-law that's turning her 90th birthday in May. And she's of the old school, just old school, rode and branded and, would today if she could get a horse.
I don't care what a woman does.
Yeah.
If you want to do whatever you want to do, you knock yourself out. If you can do the same work that a man can in a man's job, and I'm going to qualify this first.
He's
My
gonna
dad-
watch him pull the ripcord.
No, my
Watch him
dad.
pull the ripcord.
My dad was a fireman in Wichita, and they had a test for the women, and they had a test for the men, and I thought that was bullshit. If my dad, who weighed 250 pounds when he was a fireman and put all his gear on, weighed over 300 pounds, and the woman's got to be able to carry a 150-pound dummy downstairs, but a man has to carry a 300-pound dummy, that don't qualify to me. You need to, if you want to do truck driving, if a woman can drive trucks as good as a man or better, let her have a job. I don't care what. Woman can do anything she wants to.
Don't modify the criteria.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. But
so that
I also
that puts us right back to God created.
yes,
Yes.
And he created women and their awesome strengths that they were genetically made by
Yes.
God to do.
yes.
That's not what men were to
No,
do.
it's a
and
s-
so there is a difference.
Yep.
Not saying that women are not credible, capable, or otherwise. We're not just beautiful. But men have their lane and women have theirs, and the two are supposed to work together to make it right.
I agree 100%. And I don't think
Implied.
there's anything wrong with a woman that wants to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom.
Oh,
I think that's what's wrong
biggest
with our
job
world.
ever.
It is.
Hardest job.
Yeah.
It is. And that's
And
what's
say
wrong
they-
with our world. We don't
Yeah.
have enough stay-at-home moms.
What do you remember when women were, I'm in a women's lib and I'm going back to work. I'm going to get a job. Well, Roy and I didn't do that. We raised our kids and we traveled the basketball road. He's thought that basketballs and ankle braces were a lot cheaper than trailers and tires and horses. We ranched anyway. And so our girls grew up in that environment and 30 miles from school. And that's what I did. I laid into it, until the time was over, and then followed them through college. And then it's over. And then now what? Well, you've got grandkids. And so that's the ultimate thing.
Greatest gifts in the world
Oh,
are
my
grandkids.
Well,
I'm telling you.
and I think that's where society has kind of gone astray, is because for the first time ever, there are more 30-year-old women that do not have children than ever before in history. So it's like 52% of women over 30 don't have kids. It's never happened before. But that's because that girls have been pushed this narrative of your career is going to be the most important thing in your life. Get an education, get out there, don't need a man, and run that rat race. Well, the problem is biology has got it set up to where you get to be about 35 years old as a woman, and
In today's life,
yeah,
you're old. If you were back in the 1800s, you're way old.
You're way old, and the possibilities of you having children by the time you're 35, they start going down exponentially every year. But we've gotten to this point in society where we've told girls like, you just got to get out there and compete, but we haven't told them like, no, it's important. You got to have a family. You're going to want a family one day. I mean, what's the point of being this powerful person, when you're 65 years old and you got Christmas by yourself? Like,
Right.
That's a bleak existence. But I think that there is plenty of room to tell young girls that no, like you can go do all these things, but you also need to make time to have a husband and a family and kids and bring them up right. There's a population collapse that's about to happen in Russia, Japan, and America is way below the birth
More people
replacement
are dying
level.
than being born.
Yeah.
But
it's
we've
a
just done a
selfish-
tremendous disservice to women and the future of mankind.
You got grandkids, two grandsons,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem to be little toots. I see pictures of them all the time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Have they come and spent the night with y'all?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And when they do, you're so happy when they get there. And when they leave, you're so happy also. Because I'm the same
worn
way.
out.
Worn out is the word. Could you imagine having to raise two little boys by yourself at this age?
I've thought about it.
It would wear you out.
Because I think, okay, who's next in line if
Something happens.
Yeah.
You don't want to
But-
think about it, but just
no,
you
but
haven't.
you have to kind of
yes.
reality. But I have a stamina, and I think I've done pretty good. They've left them with us for 5 days at a time, and there's nothing. It's not about me, that's for sure. And thank goodness Roy's a good partner, and we can do. They're 3 and 1,
But they
at this
wear you
point.
out.
Yeah, they're pretty active, and in the summer it's great. And the other day, speaking of the quality of lifestyle, when we had them for 5 days, we're like, I can't be shut up in the house with them for this long. And the weather was good when our winter was so mild,
Right.
So Roy came home one day with the cowboy teepee, and I know what the cowboy teepee, the
I
canvas
have
teepee.
no idea what that is.
Well, it's like the cowboy bedroll, but it's a teepee, and it's big enough you can put 2 cots in it for cowboy. That's what cowboys stay in on the line, when they're on the line camp or whatever. So Roy has one, and so he brought it and set it up in the backyard, and we opened it up, put pillows in the sleeping bag in there, and Nan, that's what call me as Nan. I brought a cowboy lunch out there, and we got in the tent and in the teepee and ate lunch, and the babies took their siestas out there 2 days in a row. I mean, we had their little rocking horse and their bouncy horse on the springs thing. It was a big horse. Had to pull them right up to the door of the tent, because they were riding and getting cattle. And, I'm the mom cooking in the tent, but we played the Western life. Well, Roy Tucker would go sleep in his bedroll now if people would look cross-eyed at him, but he loves that, cooking on a campfire and stuff. And we've actually done that. But the boys are introduced to that just last week, and they love it. Yesterday, we had Uncle Butch. Uncle Butch is the new pony. He's a pinto, brown and white pinto pony for them, and I want to go ride Uncle Butch. And so 4 was on Uncle Butch yesterday, and up and down, up and down, up and down, and he's bomb proof, thank goodness. But he got to push cattle. They move cattle, and so his day is just around the corner where he's horseback and doing. This is what you
Right.
bring him up into. And then we're in the sandbox, and we're trucks and whatnot. But yeah, I get down in the sandbox with him. I mean, what else do you do?
Yeah.
Imagine when it's July 15th, it's 115, and they want to stay outside at night.
You're outside. You're outside the sandbox. So
But you can have the adventure of your life with your kids. Like
Right
so
in the
many
back door.
people think that, I got kids, like, my life's over. And it's like, no, they're mobile. Just
Yeah.
take them.
very.
Take them, dude.
Yeah.
Experience things with them.
This weekend in Fort Worth is the Texas Southwestern Cattle Raisers Convention, and that's an annual thing we go to. So the boys are going. They had to get their hair cut the other day
Yeah.
and shape it up, and so we'll go and do the weekend of that. And really
You have
get
to
see if
expose
it-
your kids and grandkids.
Oh, my gosh.
People don't do that enough.
Mm-hmm.
My boys got drugged to everything that we did that was related to our business, anything, and
Right.
we always took vacations. My grandsons and my granddaughter been to Puerto Rico last year, Key West. They go to hunting shows. They go everywhere we go. Andy and them are fixed to take the boys to Costa Rica. I mean, they're going to go.
I'm envious of the Mexico trip that the
Take
whole
'em.
crew goes on. I'm like, Roy, would you maybe go to the sand? And well, it might not be too bad because he, had never seen water and crossed over the Mississippi River when he went to Mississippi to see me and to ask my parents for their hand. So it's kind of, would you maybe want to do that, Roy? Because I said, look how much fun these guys are having.
We have a good time.
I bet. It's
Can he
beautiful.
turn it off though? Like, because
Roy?
it's 7 days a week, 365.
I think he's at a point now where he
could?
tries to, but he'll lay awake at night about branding calves next week,
really?
and then, how planning how to do it. So it's just ingrained in him. That's how he's.
Is he a snow skier though?
He can ski.
Because your son-in-law's a good skier.
He's I call him a ski snob because he does backwards. When first time we went together with his folks to kind of be acquainted, we went skiing, and I didn't really realize how big a skier he was until he
came from Florida.
Yeah, but they went skiing every year. I think, as a family tradition. And I mean, I can go down with 2 skis and poles and make it. Give me green or green's the cheaper
I'm retired
one.
from that.
Well, I kind of am too, but Roy skis, and in Arizona you could go up to hit some snow.
Snow bowl. I've skied there.
He could do all that, and just quick little jaunts. But son-in-law comes by me backwards with the GoPro on. I'm like, if you make me fall, you're done. You're out of the family. So he is very good. He likes the blacks, I think. And I'm like, I don't even want to go there on a.
When Jake was telling me the first time we were talking at the ranch one day, and he said something about skiing. I said, "Oh, where y'all going?" I said something. He's like, "Oh no, I'll ski somewhere a lot better than that or something." It's like, damn, boy's he's a ski snob.
He is a ski snob, but that's okay.
But But it's funny because he grew up in Florida, ranches in West Texas, and then skis in New Mexico and Colorado. Did they go to Utah or somewhere and ski one time?
Park City.
That's what I was thinking.
I've been with him to Park City, but and he told me don't say his name and bring it attention. So you've done that. I've just said him.
Jake Cowan. We're not supposed to talk about.
So. But I will tell you, it's a quality of lifestyle, and God just up the ante when He put him in my life.
Jake's a great guy.
Great guy.
So let me ask you this, because it's every parent's kind of wish that maybe my kid will go branch off and do something outside
worthy.
Out of the family business. And I'm sure Jeff had similar aspirations for me, and I would like for my kids to do something else. But when they make that decision to follow in your footsteps, are you okay with that? Or are you like, now listen, this is the nitty gritty of this.
Do you want your grandsons to be in the cattle business?
Oh, absolutely.
You do? But what about your daughters? Were you like, come on?
Well, of course you want, because that's all we had. We had 2 daughters, and I'm going to go ahead and shout it out to Cedar Ridge Aviation, because that's where Georgianne, our second girl's at. And to love my job, to say I love my job, Mom, is quite the understatement. She said, I love
that
my
girl's
job.
a worker too, because I watched her filling up the helicopter one day here.
Yeah. Well, when she says, I said, well, so what do you do? Well, I got my mixing license, and I went, bartending?
That's what I would be thinking too.
No, Mom, no. I got my license to do chemicals, to mix chemicals. And, they go to Iowa and spray big time up there. And I guess the regulation there is pretty tight and specific. So I'm like, okay, I can buy into that. Well, Roy and I wanted both of our girls to fall into ranching in some aspect. And they both went their way. They both played college basketball, which was cool. But they were always both their separate people, 5 years difference in them, but smart, intelligent, can navigate. And Jessen's path took her to TCU Ranch Management and excelled at that, and still has her hand into that. Georgianne went another route into coaching because she loved that. Now she's in this, and I think she's just upped her game to the next level. She loves what she does and the people that she's meeting. And I know she said she had a fabulous time, was kind of leery about going Dallas Safari Club to be at their booth.
Right. I would be leery too.
I'm not sure, but she got there, and on the backside, oh my gosh, I met some of the most incredible people. And I want to go to Alaska to hunt. And I'm like, go do all that. So it's still agriculture. Yeah. Because they crop spray, and then the hog hunting and the collaborative, conservation with wildlife and parks, and doing that and meeting the people there. But it's just cool. And she's with great people.
She does work for good people.
Right.
Garrett and Dustin are both good people. That's a good team over there.
Yeah.
And she's a good hand. And I watched her filling up the helicopter one day, and I thought, there's not a lot of women could do that. Not sounding sexist or nothing.
Right, no.
But that's the honest to God
it's
truth.
Not an easy
but she's
job.
a go-getter, too.
It's not a glamour
but
job.
But her personality fits that, where A lot of women are not going to want to do that, but she does. But she was comfortable. That's her element.
Right.
She does a good job.
I have my family all lives in Mississippi, and I've got a couple of nieces that are, one in particular that is of that nature. She just takes care of business. My parents were elderly, and my mom's still there, but she kind of runs the thing. They have cattle, and they farm, and they hay, and she takes care of everything, and nobody tells her to, because that's her nature. And my mom is very proud of that, because my mom was not a sit around, eat chocolates, and read magazines kind of woman. She worked, and I worked, and that was that work ethic grained in. And so I think that's good because I think if you're able to fend for yourself, learn how to change your oil, how to change a tire, and you're not dependent on, that's not to say that we don't encourage, a great guy. I hope God sends a great guy and knocks props out from under you to go in and feel like to follow on your thread of the family unit, because I think we did lose that. We have lost that because it's about me, me, me. It's not about me. It's about today. It's not about me even, and retiring, you can sleep when you're dead. I told Roy, I said, it's nice to slow down, but you would be so cabin fevered if you didn't have cattle, if you didn't have something to do. And I said, that's what the worthiness of life is to do that. So my responsibility a few days a week is, Mom, can you keep the boys? I've got my own job with numbers and books and whatever. Or, Mom, if you can keep the boys for me this week and help me, you can ride this day and I'll ride this day. Well, I'm okay with that easy trade-off, because I love to cowgirl. I love to get on, and I especially love to work the squeeze chute if I'm called to say, Nan, can you come help me process a cattle today? So I love that, but I change a lot of hats. I don't look like this every day,
But if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work.
That's right.
I mean, I love what I do, and there's 4 days a week 4 days a year I go to work, and it's the days we got to do quarterly taxes. I absolutely hate them damn things.
Yeah, right.
But other than that, I have days that aren't so good.
But who doesn't?
But I like, but I mean, that's just life and part of business.
Yeah.
But I enjoy what I do, and a lot of people don't. So I'll never retire.
No.
And I'll die one day.
Right.
And when I die, I can look back, if I could look back from my death and say, you know what? I'm really blessed. I've gotten to do what I want for 70 years or whatever it is. And whether you're a cowboy, I know guys that are mechanics and they love what they do. I wouldn't want to be a mechanic. No. I don't enjoy nothing like that. But there's guys I know that love that shit. And when they're not working at work as a mechanic, they go home and work on their stuff, or they're rebuilding something,
or don't have anything to drive.
That's the guy that's the painter's house is always the worst painter. But they enjoy what they do,
right.
And if you like what you do,
then you're not working. That is a
life.
True statement. Yeah. That is such. My dad was a mechanic at Georgia Pacific Corporation, so he was what you call blue collar. Went to work every day, but every day without fail he did it, and we weren't rich. I mean, my mom would tell us, they'd tell us now, we were poor, but we didn't know it. Yeah. I mean, we used to kill hogs and make everything you can make out of a hog head cheese to, chitlins, I've been there, made it, done it, eaten it. That's what I grew up on hunting. So in every aspect of our life, Roy's and mine married for 35 years, I had a hunting business in Kansas, deer and turkey and quail when the quail were even around. And met some of the most incredible people who were lifelong friends still. And the first people ever hunted was Mac Stewart over at Mundy. Mm-hmm. Came with a gentleman out of Wichita Falls to Kansas.
Who was the guy at Wichita? Was it Lane Crow?
No, it was Don Morgan.
Oh, yeah. Don and my dad were friends.
I know. So, see, here's that small world moment. But we had a ranch in Kansas, and I told Roy, I said, we've got to open this up because it's Flint Hills and big, huge monster whitetails, huge whitetails. Let's do it. I know how to do it. And so we started out. Well, Don Morgan answered the call of about coming to hunt and leasing it. And so they came, and Mike Stewart actually killed probably the first buck on our ranch there. When we opened it up to hunting. And then they partnered with us to, Don Morgan did, to partner with us to, develop our deal and get a hunting lodge. And we did that for 18 years.
That's a pretty area up there. My grandparents are from up there, a little town called Buffalo. That's where my dad raised, by Chanute.
Oh, yeah, that would be east of where we were. We were in Cedarville, Kansas, right on the Oklahoma line, Oklahoma Osage. So we ran cattle and hunted. And
how far is Sedan from there?
30 minutes. And that's where my girls went to school at Sedan. Sedan High School.
Which one was the better athlete? You can go ahead and stir up that hornet's nest. Because Jeff will tell you, out of all the boys, the middle one was the best athlete, the one younger than me. So, I'm used to it.
Okay, best is not the word to use. Both girls could shoot lights out on the 3-point all day.
Who's best? Let's cut the BS. Somebody was best. Because Zach was the best athlete in our family.
But I would outwork him.
In 100 years, and Payne was lazy.
No, truthfully, and the girls get mad at me because they're 5 years different, so they didn't get to play high school together. And I said, well, God did that, it's... And thankfully he did, but because I always wanted them to be their own individual. I never waned to compare them.
You're going to try to walk around this. Which one's best?
They'll tell you, and you can bring them on later, and they'll tell you. But if they didn't want to go out in the shop and dribble their basketball and do all that, NEO dribbling and all that business, they had to pick rocks in the krill, and they've done that before because they were in trouble, and they pick up rocks in the krill and pile them here, and then move that pile over here. Roy's made them do that, so they understand. When we say something, that's what that means. But Jessen was a 3-point shooter straight out. She had a presence on the court as a point guard. She ran her court. We always told them, if you play 5 positions on the court, then you understand all 5. You can play all 5, but you have a better perspective of the person you're trying to connect with at the 4 position or 5 position. Jessen could probably handled the ball as a point guard better than Georgianne, but I won't say that Georgianne couldn't. I look at Georgianne as being the jump down, turnaround. She was the one that had some honky in her and could make the move.
Honky in her.
If that makes sense, she'll go, Mom, because she told me, Mom, don't go in there and say something dumb. I was like, well, I'm your mom, so it's going to all be dumb, but get over it. But she's the one that would do that fake layup, like I'm going to dish it and then lay it up. She's the one that would pull those stunts.
So is she the better one?
So she had like this
I don't think that's better. I think it's just she has her flavor and just.
If you had to pick one to be on your team and you had the first
one-on-one, they're both 19 years old.
Who you taking?
Well, it depends because Georgianne they both drive the hole.
That's not an
Jessen
answer.
would stroke the net from the 3, but Georgianne would stroke it from the timeline too. She won the state championship game in New Mexico. Fort Sumner, New Mexico, won state championship in the what do they call
Vixens?
that? The Vixens over at what is the one in Albuquerque, the New Mexico
Superdome.
State. It's called the Pit.
Yeah.
We were trailing at the halftime. Tatum, New Mexico, our nemesis, great coach though, and we were trailing, and our coach had this.
Was Perales y'all's head coach?
No,
the guy from Knox City went to New Mexico and won a state championship coaching girls. Remember him?
Vaguely.
That's why I just was wondering. Go ahead.
So we go at. We had a presence about. We were quick. We had 3 girls that would just lightning. And then they could shoot, and they were billies on the court, and they didn't care if you were in their way. They just went around you or over you or through you, but we were going to score. And so I remember he said at coming out the third, we run it, we blitz it. There's no laying down in the locker room at halftime. Because when you do, you just lose your momentum. Right. So he was notorious about getting out there, kicking it and run it, gun it, and that's it. And we fast braked and we killed him. I remember him saying, pull it, GA, pull it. And she was at the timeline in front of our bench, and she was kind of hesitant, but pull it means stroke the net. Yeah. And she drove it. And that was the first time we took the lead in that game. And then the momentum just changed the stands. I just showed Roy a picture the other day of our fans at the end zone. And he's the only one out of all of them. He's standing up with his hands like this, like, yay! And I said, there's only one other lady there that's just wicked crazy over this, because we knew we had it. And Matt Morier was our coach at the time, and he had played there. He's a lineage, Fort Sumner, but we wound up beating Tatum in that. Now, Tatum would beat us. We would be reserve champs in her birth, junior and senior year reserve in volleyball. But it was such a battle and great time. So GA got 3 state champ.
So you're saying Georgia is a better athlete?
Well, no. I'm not.
You're going to have to answer.
Jessen recruited to Emporia State University.
You got to give us an answer.
It depends on what you're looking for in a basketball.
You're the
player.
one that brung this up. You said, who's the better athlete?
Well, she's answered it. She said it depends on what you're looking for.
That's not the answer.
And I've always said just like this because they each had their strengths and they each had their offering to it. Jessen was a great leader on the court. Georgianne was like, I don't have patience for you, so I'm just going to do it myself.
She's a politician. I'm telling you. You're not going to answer this, are you?
That's
she
about
did.
No,
she didn't either. If you had first pick and you had to pick one.
Well, Jessen's oldest, so I'll
So
pick
you're
her and
taking
then
Jessen.
Georgianne.
There you go.
That's a pat answer. That's not even right. You're putting me on the spot here. They're both good. Jessen called me this morning. She said, well, do good. I hope it's good. So she's going to be listening, and Georgianne's going to listen, and then we're going to have a big hullabaloo over at Cedar Ridge, and then we're going to have pick it to pieces. So I'm trying to say, no, truthfully, when they weren't, Roy still says to Georgianne, you have one more year of eligibility. Are you sure you don't want to go back and play? Dad, no, but they both played under great people. Brendan Snyder, was Coach Snyder's son from over at WT. Great coach. And Brandon Snyder, in fact, Jessen recruited out of Emporia State in December, and that March they won the national championship. Emporia State did. So I said, do you miss it? She said, no, because you and Dad moved to New Mexico, and she went and finished at Wayland Baptist. And Georgianne played under Alicia Robertson from I
don't know nothing about girls basketball.
You got to get out more, okay?
You know what girls sport I like?
What?
Softball. That's the best outside of college football. That's the best college sport there is. I have actually watched college basketball more this year than I ever have because Texas is there, and I pull for all the Big 12 schools except for Kansas.
You didn't pull for LSU?
No, I don't pull for LSU in nothing.
Come
unless
on,
they're playing
man.
Alabama, maybe.
You're not making any friends down in Louisiana
I've got
then
tons
because
of
they're
Louisiana
invited.
customers. I don't mind LSU. I would rather win one of the northern schools. I don't dislike LSU. I don't dislike Alabama or something. I'm always pull for the Southwest Conference schools, the old Southwest Conference schools, but I was happy to see Kansas get beat by Arkansas the other day.
Yay.
I get so sick of Kansas. It's college basketball. It's not the best stuff in the whole world.
No, but it's better than pro, I think. It's real stuff. It's real stuff. Yeah.
I've watched more college basketball this year than I've watched in 5 years. And I saw a tweet the other day that Clay Travis put out, and he said the NBA always makes excuses for their viewership's way down. And he says it's because all the woke bullshit and they don't play defense and nothing. Yeah. And someone's like, no, well, he said, and the perfect example is the NCAA men's tournament their ratings are skyrocketing again because people get sick of the woke shit. We want to see guys play sports, and that's it. We don't want to hear we don't want to see all the damn riding woke, on the court and crap.
I woke up early this morning. That's about as close to woke as we get. But yeah. And I actually watched a couple of games. The other day, I've got a friend on Facebook that goes back to Oklahoma and Kansas when the girls were playing ball, and I think it was Jessen that was playing. We traveled weekends to play basketball, and you got to play up and get your tail beat, a lot to be good when you come back to your home court. Well, this one little gal, and I know she plays at OSU, Oklahoma State, Taryn Milton. Her dad was the coach of Jessen, Myron Milton. He played college ball and I think some pro. And her brother is Shake Milton, Shake and Bake. And I forget the name of the team that he played for. And I think he went pro also. But their dad passed away early in their life. But she was born in just a little small girl.
Right.
And that girl scored the winning point for OSU to make the playoffs. And I think
for this year?
Yeah. Taryn Milton, Terryn.
Is that her? Her?
Yep.
That's her.
Yep. And she scored the winning shot. Now, I remember seeing her as a little baby girl with the passy in her mouth. I mean, she was the cutest little thing with her mom and dad. I mean, and she looks like her dad. But she scored the winning point for OSU to go into the finals, 61-60 at the buzzer. And then they got beat the other night, the other day, 62-61 to lose out of the bracket.
You know what's amazing about the college basketball, which little I have watched. I have not watched any until this tournament come in. But how many kids are 5th and 6th year seniors on these schools that are playing right now?
I know, that's what we tell Georgianne.
That have transferred back all the time.
Do it, Georgianne.
Georgianne, you got one more year. Let's do it.
One more year.
With the COVID deal, There's kids that are never going to play in the NBA, but they're 6-year players. You know, one guy was like 37 years old, I think, playing the other day.
And at that age, I'm just going to tell you, it can't be easy to do. Because if you...
Oh, he wasn't 37. I was just kidding. But he was
still,
older. He was
older,
27 or 28 years old and still playing college basketball.
You know, looking at... I knew when the girls were in school, they went right through school and played, and it was so tough for them. The rigor... Because if you're in championship caliber teams... You don't have just a slack practice, and you know there's a routine that's pretty rigid, and you've got to be disciplined to do that. So I remember talking Jessen off the ledge. You know, you can make that 100-yard run in so many seconds. I know you can. You know, just put your mind to it. She was a great distance runner, stamina runner. Jessen was, and I remember on the backside her calling, and she said, "I just thought, okay, Lord, you know, about the 50-yard line, I'm just done, gassed, and I got to make this time, and that's the pressure." And I remember it felt like it lifted off, and she said I actually was among the top 5 finishers in the whole team. And I said, so, you know, it said something about her desire and her will, and you know, just giving it up and going. And Georgiana's the same way. I mean, she'd get so mad if people weren't on their game and paying attention. I mean, but I said, you know, if throw it to them, you better be looking at it because it will hit you in the head. And, you know, I'm going to make you a star. And Georgiana was very good at that. And so was Jessen, making other people a star. I'm going to pass you, so you better be watching the ball. It may hit you in the head if you're not. So they were great team players, but they also were able to just take it and handle business if they needed to. Both of them could, you know. And so I'm glad of that. Would I have liked to seen them do rodeo or whatever and compete and rope and all that? And of course you would.
I saw a girl bull rider one time at a rodeo.
Well, then, you know, I have the WPRA. I knew a girl back in the day that rode bulls, but she was a billy. I mean, not the kind I wanted to be, but I mean, that's nothing. There's nothing slack about that, and you got to have something. Right. Maybe touched up there. I don't know. Who are you proving it to?
This girl rode in Stanford. We went to the rodeo one year, and there was a girl riding in the bulls in there. I thought, boy, I wouldn't want to mess with her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's got a lot bigger balls than I got. I wouldn't ride a bull for nothing.
I've been watching.
Did you see the guy get knocked out the other day, JB Mooney?
I did.
Did you see that video? If he's wearing a helmet, that don't happen.
Yeah, but JB's he's another color character.
He ain't never going to wear a helmet.
No, it's something about him, and you know, it is what it is. But he's walking, or I don't know if he's walking, but I know he was coherent the next morning. That's when I saw the.
I didn't think he was still riding because he's older, isn't he?
Like 39, I think.
Yeah,
right.
He was down on the bull, and that bull was standing so docile in that chute while they put the rope on him.
Did
and
you
everything.
Not see the video?
I didn't see it.
And he just kicked and bumped, and he dotted his head right into the chute gate in front of him, and it cold cocked
down
him
goes
right
Frazier.
Was this at Houston?
Yep.
Okay.
But eventually, not a rodeo guy. Don't know nothing about rodeos. I watch them sometimes. Don't know much about them, but it's just a matter of time before they're going to make them all wear helmets.
Well,
I don't know. They don't do instant replay, and that's been the big deal.
A kid lost $50,000 this weekend because of it.
That's been the hot wire. But you know they don't have instant replay, so it's an I call right now.
No, that's not it.
That's not it.
No, he never gets on the.
He doesn't ever get out of the chute on him. He's getting his rope put on.
This must have been the first round.
There can't be nothing in the world hurts worse than being a bull rider. Bull riders and motocross riders.
Well, I don't know. Bull riding, you look at what a bull rider does, but you think about a bareback or saddle bronc rider.
I mean,
you got to get your foot up over the point of the shoulder on the first jump, and you know there's a lot of guys. I mean, that's tough.
But the hurting.
I mean, sit in your chair and see if you can do your legs like that.
I never wanted to be. There's nothing about a rodeo that I've ever wanted to be.
Dumped in the chute. Hopefully,
maybe a barrel racer would have been for me.
Now you see, and I don't know if your
it's
viewers
just sitting there. Yeah, they can see.
That bull is just as docile in there as ever. And I thought, well, he's not, bumping around or doing anything, and his men are, pulling the rope for him. And I mean, it's just a split just like that.
There goes Frazier.
No.
Listen, and they had
Why did they open the gate immediately?
Because they have to get his hand out of the rope.
Okay.
And then I thought, gosh, he's down under the bull or whatever. But they, you saw him just come to that. And those guys that are bullfighters, holy cow. I've got some friends that are bullfighters, and they're awesome people, but they are just, I don't know. They're agile.
Does Weston? Weston's on the inside. He's not one of the guys up here on the top.
Weston was not fighting at the Houston Rodeo, but he's a hand.
He's been on the podcast with us.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one.
I mean, there's nothing you can do about.
So they got to untie. They got to take his hand off, and then they open the gate. And the
well,
bull.
I'm sure they got him out of there. I didn't watch that live, so I don't know what the ending of that is. But the rope, the bull rope has rosin on it, so it's sticky. And so they have to get him out from under, because I'm sure once he.
But how'd they get him out? He was on the ground.
That's what they're saying.
I didn't see,
probably,
so I don't know. But I'm sure that his hand was in there, and those guys got over in there and picked him up. Probably
that one guy tries to grab him,
right?
And they don't weigh a lot. I mean, JB can't weigh 150, 60 pounds.
He's about 5'10".
Have you been around any of these big bulls that they have on these big PBR circuits? Like, have you've seen them like in real life? Are they just like this monstrosity of an animal?
Huge bulls. Well, this is a backstory.
There's a lot of money in that.
Oh my gosh! Well, when the PBR split off, that was a whole nother genre from just rodeo, because before PBR there was just PRCA or your amateur, but the stock just became bull breeding. So if you're horses or bulls or whatever, if you own bucking stock and you're breeding for that, that's big time. Crazy.
But people want to go see PBR. They want to go as a complete novice rodeo guy. I don't want to see the rope and stuff. That doesn't interest me as much. It's very impressive at what they can do. I'm not saying that, but I don't think it's a crowd pleaser. I don't think you're going to fill it up. Bull riding is. Yes.
That's why you see
saddle broncs the same way, or bareback. That's what people want to see.
The rough stock.
It's kind of like going to a NASCAR race. People want to see a crash.
Wreck.
That's just the way
round and round's not impressive, but yeah.
You want to put a show on that people want to see. You have the bullfighter guys. You have PBR guys. You have bareback, and you have wild cow milking.
The wild cow milking,
and that will
always
fill. That's what people want to see.
Well, bull riding does, like at the National Finals Rodeo, they bull riding, the lights go down, and they do this big ceremonial opening, and the announcers are all jived, and they announce the bullfighters, and they get it all staged, and then the lights come up, and then we start cracking. Well, that is the phenomena of it. You're right.
That's the main event.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like the main event. Now, Roy was a healer, team rope and healer. Yeah, heading and healing. And he did that. Went to college and had a scholarship as college rodeo, and then he had his PRCA card, Professional Rodeo Cowboys.
It's impressive what they can do, but they don't. People don't get as excited to go watch a roping as they do a bull riding.
Yeah, but you can't believe the people that go to rope, and it's days on end to rope.
That's a money deal.
It's like in Las Vegas, and not only do you have the NFR, the championship rodeo, but you also have these other rodeos that are ropings that are handled and in 3 arenas at South Point Hotel, if you're familiar with that. But there's 3 different arenas there to go in constantly with team roping. And then they have the junior national finals rodeo. And so you have kids in high school, less than high school, that are competing in the same events that big guys do, but just on smaller stock. And so it's crazy, but it's a huge industry.
You're connected everywhere. The Western clothing, has it made a resurge where it's getting grown again? Because I grew up during, you're going to laugh at this, urban cowboy times. Everybody,
girl, I got you beat a little bit, girl. There, I do, but yeah, I know.
Urban cowboy was huge. Everybody was a cowboy then. Yeah. John Travolta.
Oh, yeah. All the bars put in mechanical bulls.
Right,
it was crazy.
Well, Billy Bob still has the mechanical bull, and you can get your picture taken on the station.
Gillies, they finally bulldozed it over, didn't they?
Maybe, but Billy Bob's still well and alive.
When Urban Cowboy came out, John Travolta went from being the disco king to the Urban Cowboy.
You're right.
And it was the #1 hit. Every song on it was huge. Everybody was a cowboy in 1981, 82, whenever that was. Okay. Are we seeing a resurgence now with Yellowstone in the Western clothes? Are they starting to sell? Is it getting bigger and bigger now?
The awareness is more. I do contract work for Double D Ranch Wear. They're a family-owned company out of Yoakum, Texas. Wonderful group of women, 3 daughters and the mom. Father's passed since, but They started out with one of those. It's kind of a Pendleton blanket. You know what Pendleton blankets are. So they just saw a Native American in one of the Western states, and had this long coat on that was made out of a Pendleton blanket type material. And they said, we're going to do that. So that was their first thing. Well, now one of the sisters is the designer. One of the other sisters is the one that has it made and does the sourcing for all the beads and leathers.
I call that the
everything.
Santa Fe look.
Whatever. And then the other daughter, the other sister is the CEO. She's kind of the big cheese and handles all of it. I don't know how they do, and then mom is still an integral part. But Double D Ranchwear has now just opened a store in the stockyards down in Fort Worth, which is kind
They're
of
doing good then.
Rodeo Drive and that whole stockyards is just full of night. But yes, I think that there's a bigger awareness for Double D. It's the upper echelon of fashion clothing of the Western lifestyle, but it also moves off into genres like bikers but lots of leather, lots of beads, high dollar stuff, but it's quality and they're keepers, and they've done a terrific job to market and make and create a design of clothing that is forever. Lifetime. It's a wonderful brand. It's a beautiful brand, and the story behind that brand is that family, and they're just wonderful, just me and you people. And so I love going when they say, "Can you come work Dallas Market and help show the line?" Absolutely, all day. I love it. And then, can you come? They have Facebook. We talk about social media and Facebook being like, there's bad. Well, this is the good about it, because there's a group, the Double D Addiction, and these are ladies that are just, addicted to Double D. And so they do, I met so many people through that effort, but I love when I get the call, are you available? And can you come? And I tell Roy, can I go? Thanks. Great. Bye.
But that's that look, though, that you see in the Western states. Like Santa Fe, New Mexico is a very trendy, high-end deal. And you see those kind of clothes at places like Santa Fe. I don't know about Aspen and Vail because I don't get a run in those circles
do,
ever.
and I think you see it in Park City, Utah. There's a little general store up there that a friend of mine has, and she has a section of Double D, but she also has Shafer, and she also has Wrangler and those other names that so much about that are staples, but the higher end stuff, I
Jackson
think
Hole, Wyoming. Correct. Yep.
Yes.
That's that look.
Yes.
And you're seeing more and more of that now. That's so it's trending more and more popular because I think Yellowstone's got a lot to do with it.
Well,
I believe
so.
crazy blonde-headed. What's her name? What's the Beth?
Yeah.
I went to
Aunt
school
Beth,
with Beth
no.
Dutton. I went to school with a girl just like her, batshit crazy and a lot of money.
Love whiskey.
Oh
Love
yeah,
their whiskey. Fort Sumner. We came back from skiing about a month ago. Went through Fort Sumner, and I told Jesse, I don't think Billy the Kid wanted. This is not when he was born. He's not like, I want to go to Fort Sumner and die. There is not much in Fort Sumner.
I think it's a neat town.
Did you like your time there?
Well, I asked Roy, I said, why do you want to move there? He
Right.
said, I just think it's a neat town.
I think it is.
I was like, okay.
I didn't get that.
I grew up in Centerville, Mississippi, and it's black and white. Follow me? You got that?
Yes.
Yeah, we
but
understand.
It was my hometown, and so I really didn't know much. But what he said, no, let's go. Well, it's a farming. There's a lot of alfalfa farms there because they have irrigation ditches. It's right on the Pecos River, and very unassuming. It's about 45 minutes west of Clovis, New
I think
Mexico.
it's a cool town.
Yeah, and it is. When we moved there, we had our place, and then we had a ranch outside of town about 45 minutes. So that was a difficult, and it's just big country too.
Yes,
but
a lot of just the sagebrush and all that. I was like,
you're going to know these people, but I've always wondered about the house that's on Main Street, and it's got the huge window in it.
Yeah,
and you can see in the house all the time. And I always thought, man, you can't walk around in your underwear in that house.
The lady that had that was quite the eclectic, just a beautiful soul. She passed away a few years ago, but I know her family, great people. Now I'm going to put me on the spot and call her name. I can't now.
That's how I knew the Vixens and Foxes, because I always thought, well, who names your high school girls the Vixens?
Yeah. But Sarah Bell Key was her name, and she could play, and she was quite a performer. but just spry, and she died past in her 90s, but her son and daughter both live in Fort Sumner area. In fact, Pal Carter was a calf roper and went to finals a few times. So the rodeo is a big deal in Fort Sumner. But when we moved there, you go to a new place, even if it's Knox City, truthfully.
Yeah. What are you to talk about? Somebody, we live in Knox City.
Well, but the truth, but here's what I want to tell you.
It's green here.
Roy and I don't know a lot of people in Fort Sumner except the ones that are in our circle of what our lifestyle is.
Right.
A cowboy or you guys or, but you hunt. And so we kind of know all that. When we moved to Fort Sumner, we learned people like that. Of course, I became the Chamber of Commerce president for 4 years.
Well, then you know everybody.
So then I know a lot about the town. And I loved the culture because of Georgianne started her junior, and she did her junior and senior year there. And like I said, collected 3 state championship rings. And one of them is a javelin state champion in javelin. So,
so you get real popular when she starts bringing home the gold.
Well, yeah. But it was when you have a community that's behind their school to the force that they were, and the quality of kids that went there, they're farmers or ranchers. They grew up in the Western lifestyle and they get it. They're not
the whole community is based on agriculture and work.
Based on work, yeah. And just good people. And so we had a terrific 10 years there, I guess, is how long we lived there. But
well, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to people for Fort Sumner for Andy being rude.
What did Andy do?
Oh, why would you live there? It's terrible.
I didn't say that. I never said it was terrible. I said it wasn't
place
for me.
to die.
I said, you think Billy the Kid was like, this is where I want to end up?
Well, listen, and that was another thing. There's a state historic site, New Mexico State Historic Site there that was like a quarter of a mile from our house where we lived, which is the Bosque Redonda. Bosque Redonda is what it's named. And I was part of their friends group that helped try to get the story told in there, not just a museum where you look at blankets on the wall and bronzes here, but to tell the story of the Long Walk. So your listeners, if they're history buffs, this is a terrific story. There's a book called Blood and Thunder. I forget the author's name, but it is a very, very historical account of both sides, the military and the Native Americans, that gives you it's a story that you want, it's not the end of the trail. It's not bury my heart at Wounded Knee, Blood and Thunder. But it tells a story of how the Navajo and the Apache were rounded up by the military. Yep, that's it.
It is Kit Carson, The Conquest of the
Kit
American
Carson.
West.
It is a hard read.
Really?
It's a hard read because it's so full. And I've read some of it in reading, and I've put it on read it book or whatever. But if there was one book that would give you that full history, we don't know that. We aren't taught that history in school at all. And it's like, oh my gosh, why do we still repeat the same offenses generation after generation after generation? It's the same thing. But the story of the Long Walk is one that says about the resilience of the Native American people and the Navajo people. Because they had hatred because they were rounded up and taken to Fort Sumner and incarcerated there.
Kit Carson will be one of the next woke people that they take his name off everything.
And crazy, but it is history.
Yeah, it is. But he's going to be one of them that's going to be erased.
So this goes to my ignorance. The Long Walk, is that part of the Trail of Tears?
No,
it's a separate event.
It is a separate event. And see, that's the thing. We don't know. We hear the Trail of Tears.
Right.
We hear, all that. But the Long Walk was where, and then on the end of time, the military recognized their failed effort at rehabilitating Native Americans, but they are the ones that built all the irrigation ditches in Fort Sumner Valley.
The Indians did?
Yeah. I don't know that the Apache were so much involved in that because they're a much more wily kind of tribe, and their behavior was more wily. Navajo were more docile and family oriented and that sort of thing. So
the Apaches fought back a lot.
They left. They escaped from the incarceration.
Then they started raiding and doing all that stuff. But I don't blame them for that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not a sympathizer for the Indians, but I also know they got screwed around. But that was the way times were back then.
Right.
But they fought back a lot, and I got a lot of respect for them because I'd have done the same thing that they done.
So in the 4-year campaign of all those Native Americans being taken to Fort Sumner, which is right where we lived, the military, the government said, well, we've failed at this operation, so we're going to send them back home. And so whatever was left of the Navajo, like I say, the Apache culture had left. They had escaped by whatever means, or there were a fragment left. The military gave each one of the Native Americans one sheep each, and Chief Barboncito told them, he said, throw down your hurt, throw down your pain. We're going to go back. And they walked back that 400 and something miles back to the Four Corners, and that's where they are now.
They're clearing them out. Right there is
the Four
Corners, and
Yep.
that's where they're clearing them out of
Yep.
and taking them to Fort Sumner over here.
They walked them, and the slaughter or the death or the whatever, the misery that those people had to endure or didn't endure. Their nation was demised by half by the time they got to Fort Sumner.
What a terrible walk. And now, it was a bad walk from Albuquerque on.
It'd be a bad walk from one end of Fort Sumner to the other, much less those 400 miles.
But that spot up until you get around Santa Rosa or Klein's Corner or something,
it's
that's
a little
just rugged nothing. And then Albuquerque West.
Yeah,
it's terrible. There ain't no uglier place in the world
than West Albuquerque.
I'm telling you, when you get west of Albuquerque, it's terrible.
That's right. So, being a friend of the site, the historic site there, and as chamber president, I had my fingers really ingrained in that whole process. And they finally put in a exhibit there that it's interactive, where you walk through and. I remember the preliminary design was more of you're going to hear the people and their story, but you're going to feel the emotion of it. You're going to be like you were in that era and then that time and in that moment of their pain and suffering. And so I think that exhibit captures all of that emotion. And the lady Marianne Cortese, who was kind of the driver of that with the state, I think has finally achieved that. We still take the Dabaca County News, and our good friend is the editor publisher of that, and we still take that paper because of our connection there. But I'd recently seen where they'd opened that exhibit up as being a final one. Now that was 4 to 8 years that I was involved in that, and it's taken all that time because you've got, changing of the guard at the state capitol, and funding and blah, blah, blah. But it finally got put in. And I think it's definitely, if you're through Fort Sumner, I think it's definitely a place that you want to go see because it's one of those historic moments that you will not just walk in and look at.
I've never heard this story before, and I read a lot, and I'm a history guy.
What do they? So they got them at Fort Defiance, which weird name
the long
for that.
walk. You're looking at it right there.
So, but what did they do here in Albuquerque? They split them off into three different.
I don't know what that means. Let's see. What does it say? The yellow, red, and purple means something.
They all went to different places.
You got Fort Union, but I'll try to find that.
But they came to Fort Sumner. There were lots there, and we've had the governor and the this and the that. I mean,
10,000 Navajo were forcibly removed.
Mm-hmm.
So, see, Andy, next time you're talking crap about Fort Sumner, there's more to that. There's more to it
than
just Billy the Kid.
I'm not saying
Do
that.
you think Billy Kid's really buried there?
Yes,
Is he
is.
buried in
Most
Hyco?
absolutely.
He's not in Hyco?
No, he's not in Hyco. Now, Hyco may say they are, but Billy the Kid, traversed back and forth to Ruidoso or Capitan country horseback. Well, if you look, you can look from Fort Sumner. You can see the mountains over there toward that country, and so it doesn't seem like it's that far, but it's far.
So you don't think he ended up in you don't think he ended up in Hyco, Texas?
No, he's in
Why
Fort
did
Sumner.
people on Hyco claim him?
I don't know, because he was shot in the quarters there, the old barracks of the fort.
What was his name?
Pat Garrett.
Pat Garrett. Yeah.
He was killed in the barracks, and they've restored those barracks actually to a housing place when you come to visit there, for like dignitaries if they've come to Fort Sumner.
I'd like to go there and really look at it. I've never done that. And I love stuff like this.
How did this who did Billy the Kid piss off to get this bounty on his head?
Everybody.
The governor of New Mexico.
Everybody. Because he was kind of the Robin Hood. He was kind of a Robin Hood.
He's romantic though, because now he's a
Billy the Kid.
legend.
Yeah. But I don't know.
But he had to steal from somebody. It was like, okay, we got to get rid of this kid.
Well, he had killed a bunch of innocent people. I mean, he was not a good guy. Billy the Kid.
Jeff.
You think he was a good guy? It's like Jesse James. It's like the Animal Kingdom I watched this series. The guys were horrible guys. One of them dies at the end, or two of them.
Yeah.
They were bad people, but you start feeling sorry for him. He was a bad guy, Andy.
So why are we romantic about Billy the Kid?
I'm not. You are.
So
No, everybody's romantic.
and
about
Double
Billy
D
the Kid.
Ranchwear just did the Billy the Kid collection.
See,
So
He was romantic. He was an orphan at 15.
yeah.
I
So
wa-
and there's a great show that's in is it Capitan? It's right outside of Redosa, where they do a live show out in open air theater of Billy the Kid, and it's cool. I've been to it to see. I mean, one of those.
he's an interesting story. I
Yeah.
watched a documentary on him. His dad got killed in a shitty deal. I can't remember the whole story exactly how his dad died, but his mom was with an abusive guy, and he killed the abusive guy that was treating his mom bad. His mom was basically going to have to be a prostitute in some little town in the middle of Hyco, Texas, or somewhere.
when I,
and
now
they
you think
drafted
about,
to New Mexico. I mean, he lived a shitty life, but it was all about survival back then.
Oh yeah. So now what I always wondered what would make in that day, what makes sense that Billy the Kid would have been transported for however long it takes to get from Fort Sumner or Redosa over to Hyco, Texas?
Well,
I mean,
people in Hyco,
it's-
Texas say it never happened in New Mexico. Y'all are lying in New Mexico. People in
Oh.
Fort Sumner. I don't know how
Somehow-
it ended in Hyco. I think he
But at
got
least-
away. I think he died as an old man in Hyco is what they're saying. Is that what it is?
We got to watch Young Guns too, Jeff.
Yeah.
It
So
I
all
don't-
starts with Emilio Estevez and
But
bad
I'm
prosthetic.
thinking it's a long way to Hyco from anywhere too. So why would they? And back then you didn't have anything but the stage, and you don't want to take a body on the stage for that long. I mean that it just
I
it
think
does
he
no
was
common
going
sense
to
there.
Fort Worth. I think on Stagecoach. But you know what? I want
gotta
someone from
research it.
Hyco to come up with
Okay,
their
but
reason why
bring
he's
it.
there.
Yeah, bring it.
makes sense for him to be buried in Fort Sumner.
Right.
I'll give you that 100%.
Right, yeah.
I don't know the whole story. I'm not a big Billy the Kid guy, but I did watch a docuseries on him not long ago, and it was interesting about how things happened, but it was a TV show, so who knows how much of it was true.
Yeah.
About how the pieces fell to take this kid and turn him into a cold-blooded killer, which he is. Andy thinks he's a great guy.
I'm not finding anything about who he killed. So basically, a guy, Brushy Bill Roberts, in 1948, a Central Texas man, he began claiming that he was Billy the Kid, and he went before the New Mexico governor, Thomas J. Mabry, seeking a pardon. Mabry dismissed Roberts' claim, and Roberts
Think he's
died
a
shortly
kook.
thereafter. But anyway, Hyco just ran with it. They're like, okay.
Yeah,
they've
we'll
even
take
got their
it.
own Billy the Kid museum.
But they
didn't
got their name on the map anyway.
They didn't have anything to do with Brushy Bill. He was probably a town wacko. And then after he
I wanna be a
died, he's like, hey, you know what we can do? We can build a
I'm just
museum.
gonna,
And we'll,
yeah. No, I truthfully believe that he's buried in Fort Sumner and his gravesite there. I mean,
It makes sense.
what else could you? I mean, the marker.
It makes more sense. Let me ask you this. Andy was ripping on Fort Sumner. I personally think Fort Sumner is not that bad a place. I think it's a neat town, and to me, I can understand why during the Wild West days it had water, and I could see why they were there. The place I would want to live is Taliban, New Mexico. That looks like that's the middle of freaking nowhere and nothing there.
Taliban.
Is it how you say it?
Taliban?
It's spelled Taliban.
No,
Look it up.
I think that's an I.
Look it up. Real
Is
quick.
there a Taliban? in
It's
Mexico?
Taliban, New Mexico, and it's between there
Between
and
Clovis and Fort Summer. That's
between-
Taliban.
I think you and
Tiaban.
Andy are both wrong.
There
here
is
now.
a Taliban, and that's the one that got blown up because the railroad car came through there and blew up the whole town. You hadn't heard that story?
No. Look,
Okay, so
Andy,
I
see if
got-
there's a Taliban. I've went by there 1,000 times. I'm
On
driving
Highway
80 miles an
60?
hour. Between there and what's the road up on Santa Rosa? Between Santa Rosa and Clovis.
Hold on, I'm reading. Okay,
On
so
Highway 60 from Clovis
I'm sure it
to
is
Fort Sumner. and when-
Taliban, but I just thought it always said
Tiaban.
Taliban.
You want to say Taliban?
Taliban,
Every time
yeah.
I've drove
Is
by
there-
there, I
I
was
think
like,
it's not. I didn't look. I'm reading about Billy the Kid. So his real name's Henry McCarty.
Yeah.
Orphan at 15. His first arrest was for stealing food at age 16 in 1875. 10 days later, he robbed a Chinese laundry and was arrested again, but escaped. He fled to the New Mexico Territory, Taiban.
yeah, she's right. I
New
knew she
Mexico
was right.
Territory
Ding, ding, ding.
into neighboring Arizona Territory, making himself both an outlaw and a federal fugitive.
For what? Because he was trying to feed himself.
basically,
So,
yeah.
that's kind of what we do today, though.
Yeah.
We'll put the people in jail we can get nabbed and do it, and the ones that are really
Right.
wreaking havoc, that story. But
You mean like
anyway,
Jeffrey Epstein's
No, we don't-
clients?
yeah. What about the failing banks and all that? So, Taliban.
It is Taliban. I've been wrong. I
Taliban.
drove by that. I've always thought it was Taliban.
Well, you've got those negative
That was
thoughts.
during that time.
So look it up, Taliban, and no, it's Tolar. Tolar, Tolar is another little whole stop that's between Taliban Fort Sumner there, that the train came through and it had some sort of explosive on it, and it blew up right there in Tolar, Tolar, New Mexico, and blew the town off the map.
I'll be damned. I have heard that story before, but I've went through that town, and it's usually the middle of the night going skiing or something, and it's always like, what a shithole to live in.
Well,
because there ain't nothing there.
It's just a spot on the road now, but yeah. Fort Sumner was a great place to live.
It looks
wonderful people,
yeah.
and it's they're very robust, and they championed their school. They had great teachers. We had a wonderful 2 years. Wonderful 2 year. I mean, if you're going to put your kid in public school,
I just meant the scenery,
school.
Jeff. I didn't mean the people.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
live in
Sumner.
Knox City, Texas.
It's green right now. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Last year this time it was not. It was like this stable.
Have you been through? Have you been through Fort Sumner in the summer?
Never.
I bet it's nice at summertime, isn't it?
I always go skiing.
Help me out here, Dorie.
It is. It is nice in the summer. It's a good place to live, but I have to go with Andy too. It depends on if the rain falls.
You're
in the year.
Politician. We knew that was happening.
Well, you good, the bad, and the ugly. But the truth is, if you can't have it all at once. Because if you do, then you're not going to have it again. But
what's some places you have been? Grew up in Mississippi. Went to Kunash University, LSU, a great university. Ended up in Arizona to the Oklahoma-Kansas line and to New Mexico to Knox City. You know what people are going to ask?
What?
You don't want to live in somewhere that it rains and it's nice, do you? With seasons.
Okay, so here it is. Roy, I think I had never been across the Mississippi River west, and I think Roy had never been out of Arizona east. So kind of we were two birds flocked together. So but I went to him first, and when we left, I think we'd been married for 4 years, but we ranched in Truth or outside of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. You talk about the middle of nowhere. It was the other side of the middle of nowhere.
New Mexico, really outside of the northern part and around Ruidoso, everything in between, there's not a whole lot there.
No, but ranching.
Yes.
And it's off the grid. And some of it, Roy's mom and dad lived all their life with no electricity. It was on a generator, one of those big witty generators, and tuk, 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 tuk all the time. That was it. But life as it were. So, Roy decided that 4 years after we were married, that we needed to move, and we had an opportunity. And so we left and went to Kansas, in southeast Kansas. About 3 ranch trades later out of there in that neighborhood, we wound up at Cedarvale, which is a small town, very small town. But our ranch bordered Oklahoma Osage. Well, if you know about Oklahoma, the Osage is Pawhuska, which is on the map by the Pioneer Woman.
There.
The Pioneer Woman, made that Reed Drummond. And the Drummonds, we actually bought our ranch from the Drummonds. So it'd be Ree's husband, the Marlboro man, as she calls him, but his grandfather. We bought our Kansas ranch from Mr. Drummond. And we were there for 18 years. It was a fabulous ranch. We had some farming. Of course, Roy didn't farm, so we have a good friend that came and farmed it, cut hay for us, and had a huge, big 35-acre watershed lake on there. So we fished, and it would be me and the girls on an inner tube and the dogs and whatever. We had a great time there. And then riding, it was big enough. And then we leased some country in the Osage that was really fabulous country. So we ran mama cows, and then we took in yearlings, in the summer, 90 to 100 days. And so that was a great life. And then my hunting business, we did white-tailed deer hunting and turkey hunting. And on occasion we'd have some bird hunting if we had some quail, if we had a good year. So we were ingrained in everything, and we were kicking it. And then Roy said, it's too wet and it's too many bugs.
It's too wet.
What? And so we left that green. We sold it some fool and had a lot of money in the oil business. And truthfully, we had a big fire. I think it was in 1996, a huge big fire down south of us, the Bass Brothers. I know you've heard of the Bass Brothers. Well, they had property that was miles of us, south of us, and they always did a spring burn. And of course, in Kansas, in that country, Oklahoma and Kansas, you get to burn on purpose in the spring. And that's a fun time of year, because you see the result of it when you do burn the old off and the new comes. But it looks like the moon once you've done it, because there's rocks everywhere, limestone rock. But anyway, the Bass Brothers always would burn too soon, seemed like, and they'd catch it. And I guess this particular year, they thought they had their fire line good, and it was all out and everything, but a trunk was smoldering, and the wind kicked up and turned it back on. And when I tell you it came through the country, it just ravaged probably 6 or 8 inches deep into the soil. And I know what a hedge tree or boat prolific in that country. It burned them off in the ground, just charred them.
Did they pay off on any of that?
No. Point is, though, it burned the country. We had no protection. Well, then after that, on the highway right-of-ways, when they plant a road or whatever, they put seed mix out so it grows. Well, one of those seeds in that is Cerisa lespedeza. It's a woody species. Lespedeza is a big hay in the southeast, but Cerisa lespedeza became a noxious weed. It was a woodier species, but then the birds and the deer and everything eat it and distribute it. Whenever that fire just germinated, dead seeds or dormant seeds lay in the ground. And our entire beautiful blue stem ranch turned into Cerisa. Well, there's no grazing on that.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a woody and it's, neck high on a horse. And it's just kind of one of those defeated things. Well, at that time, and maybe now too, but at that time, the cost to spray and eradicate that, you can't afford it if you're doing the Western way of life, So we had occasion to sell it and move. And so we did. We left that country, went to New Mexico, and it was pretty good. And then we sold that ranch on another trip, lived it there, but had a place in Magdalena. Well, you talk about another historical old town is Magdalena, New Mexico, and just absenteed it and kind of enjoyed life for 4 years, but then came back to Texas where the kids are. And so we don't know really a lot about the country except what we're exposed to. And
not a lot of history here.
It's ranching though, and it's good ranching. It's a great place to live. But Roy loves Arizona, and I do too. It's just hard to get there, and you got to do it on purpose, but we still have some connection there and kind of ranch there too. So, but
bringing up history, did you read the book, The Osage Moon?
No.
That was in Pawhuska. They just filmed a movie there.
The Osage Moon
is it called the Osage Moon? It's something moon. It's about the Indians.
I need to read it then.
It's look it up, Andy. I have the book, and I haven't read it yet. I need to read it because I bought the book when they filmed a movie in Pawhuska. I think it was set
just
on
recently,
the 19th.
didn't they?
I see the Osage Murders.
That's what it is.
The Osage Murders.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yep, that's it.
Killers
right
of the Flower Moon.
I had Osage and Moon wrong. I just
but it's somewhere like that. Well, I'll have to.
But there's a movie coming out, and there's a big time actor in it. But they filmed it in Pawhuska. They even took one block, and they made it look like 1930s again or something.
I remember seeing that, and that when we lived there, the downtown of Pawhuska was like any other downtown of any town. It's dilapidated and vacant buildings and all, but they're reviving, and they had revived it just after we left. They were beginning that revival because of the pioneer woman, and wow. They bought and put the mercantile in there. And
somebody told me they went there the other day and they spent 3 days.
Yeah, it's a
mecca.
Spend
3 days in Pawhuska.
It's a mecca. Well, in the Clem McSpadden pasture roping, if you know anything about rodeo, Clem McSpadden was a wonderful announcer, and he. Are you going to hit me?
I'm going to try
Jeff?
to get that fly. Well, yeah. If it lands on his head,
he's got the fly swatter out, sweeping it. I'm like, we're not even.
That fly has been flying around here for 3 days.
That's a blowfly, isn't it?
He's nice. I don't have
it looks like.
Been eaten.
But anyway, so they have this steer tripping down there in that country, and so there's a lot of things to go to. But they tell me that you're right. You can spend 2 or 3 days down there, and
Jeff.
And he got him.
I touched it.
You touched him. You didn't catch him. He's over there.
Oh.
I want to go. I want to go back to the long walk. How many soldiers contained all these people?
Oh, I don't.
I mean, 10,000.
I don't think as many as you would think.
No,
they were scared to death. They didn't have nothing.
No,
they're just walking. Them 10,000. Probably half of them are women and kids.
Well,
I wonder how many died on the way.
Well,
a lot.
Half of them.
Half.
Yes,
didn't even make it.
Yeah, and if they were too clumsy or too frail to make the walk, they were killed. And this book, Blood and Thunder, will tell you, and it'll give you the military's account too, but it's pretty historical to it. But once they made it there, the good thing that came out of that is that they dropped their bitterness, according to Chief Barboncito, and leave your troubles here. Right. We're going back home, and let's let it be. And so there's a lot of bitterness for going back to that site by the Navajo, which is understandable because that's their ancestors. Mm-hmm. Their culture's lost, their their native tongue of speaking is, was being demised. And I think today I've got several friends that are Navajo, and they speak in their language. And I've learned a few things. I do put my hand in that culture still. I go every August to Santa Fe to the Southwest Indian Market, and I've got some friends that have a trading post in Sanders, Arizona, which is right on the New Mexico Arizona line on I-40.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about nothing.
Where's it at now?
Sanders, Arizona.
And it's on I-40?
I-40.
It's a tourist trap. I've been caught in that thing, I think.
In the R.B. Burnham trading post.
I'm sure I have. We
Well,
used
it's
to stop
very
at all those
unassuming.
things.
Unless
Oh, I
you
maybe
know it's
haven't.
there. Unless you know it's there, you don't know it's
It's
there.
on I-40 though?
It's a mile off of I-40
Okay,
south.
no. If it's
so it's
on
not
I-
a storefront. No.
Okay.
No, it's not the teepees and all that through
Been
Grants
there.
and
Been there,
California.
done that.
Yeah, not that. So
Okay.
this is my friends, Bruce and Virginia Burnham. And I met them through my time in Fort Sumner because they would come in and help us we would raise money for this historic site. And so they had several charitable auctions with rugs, and of course they have beautiful jewelry, but they have a trading post there. And I never realized trading post. You think Gallup and all the pawn shops in the trading post,
Right.
that's tourist traps.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's where Jeff goes.
yeah, right. Okay, so
Wasn't my choice.
but it's fun to go there because you find and see all kind of beautiful things, and it's just fun to look at, not trinkets and whatnot. But Bruce and Virginia, Bruce is a white man, and Miss Virginia is actually Navajo and Hopi both. And he worked for her dad on the reservation as a young man, and so they became husband and wife, and now I think 65 years marriage. But they have this trading post in Sanders, and it actually is, I believe, the last active trading post in Arizona. They have the pawn place, the pawn counter, and actually I've been in there visiting and have locals come in to pawn off a bracelet or whatever, or pick up or pay toward.
Do they have real Hopi pottery there?
They have real everything.
Because the Hopis were the ones that did all the pottery. If
Navajo too.
Navajo did also, but the Hopi was real big in their culture, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
How did they paint those?
I have with weeds
Clay and stuff like that.
clay and yeah.
I wonder whether because like a kiln bakes it, and
Right.
so I was wondering how they
A kiln or a fire pit in the ground.
is that how they did it then?
Yes, and Roy and I found a place on our place in Magdalena that we where they had uprooted some cedar trees, kind of clearing the land and whatnot. And when you turn the root up, I said, well, gosh, there's some pottery shards here, and they were pretty good size, 6 or 8 inches big. I would find some. And we ultimately decided that had to have been a pit where they fired their clay to make their vessel, but a tree grew in it, or
That's
whatever.
Really interesting.
So what we did is all the pottery that we found there in that place in Magdalena, we sent it up to New Mexico Highlands. They have a pretty good archaeology department there in that university. And so we sent those shards of clay up there and pottery, and we were astonished on the result of that. The professor that did it, what do you call it, dated
Mm-hmm.
individual pieces, and come to find out it's like 6 AD
Holy
Wow.
cow.
to like 100 AD, and without going through all the jargon of the note and the thesis that was written afterwards, but it was a people that had not ever been discovered or known about. And the place in Magdalena is way off the grid. It's the Magdalena Mountains, and it's just a big expanse of land, huge. And you think, oh my, that's what's so humbling about it all, I guess, is that people actually live there. But we got a research report on the pieces, but it was black and white and some red and black, but the coolest stuff, kind of that thing. But the trading post people are purveyors of rugs predominantly. Of course, they have beautiful basket weaves and, everything else that you find in those treasures of Native Americans and what they made. But what I did find to be fascinating and have seen is, we were talking about Fort Sumner and the historic site there. And the Navajo, when they were marched there, they're creative people and facilitating, the military would give them like a gray military coat for warmth or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's told that they would take those coats and unravel them and weave them back into a blanket.
Really?
Or a rug.
Uh-huh.
Because it's more functional.
Right.
As a lay blanket, a wrap blanket, or a saddle blanket on a horse or whatever. The coat is just a coat.
Right.
So that began a process of weaving that the Navajo did. And so the chief, the general at that time ordered for a load of colored yarn to be shipped from Germantown, Pennsylvania. It's like, gosh, that's 2 worlds apart, I mean, west to the east,
right.
northeast, or wherever Pennsylvania is. But they hauled in colored yarn for the Navajo, and they wove what is now historically the Germantown rug. And Germantown rugs are very bright and vibrant, reds and purples, and just gorgeous. Well, my first encounter with a Germantown rug dated to that period, which is awesome, was from the R.B. Burnham's, and it was a bright red, probably big as this room right here, the rug, and he laid it out on the floor. He said, "Would you like this?" I said, "Oh my God, I'd love to have that." Couldn't afford it, of course, but oh my gosh, the masterpiece. And if you know, they do storm I mean, there's so much written
I've heard
in
of
a rug.
Germantown rugs, but I did not know
That's
the story on it. What's a rug like that run?
Well, you
much.
can get one for $42,000 right there, Jeff.
Wow.
Yep.
I worked at a furniture store and we sold antique Middle Eastern rugs. I can't think of the name of them. And I'd
So
say
the third one up there, that 19th century one, is a Dazzler. It's a Germantown. There you go. I was going to say that's probably a
$36,000.
Germantown. Yeah,
And that's used.
Yeah.
well,
yeah,
they're all used. They're antiques.
If they were a
Well-
Germantown rug, I guarantee you it was used because it was made back in that period. But I've seen other rugs that are more like a horse blanket is.
Yeah.
If you fold it, or it's a
Yes.
little bit longer, and then you fold it, put it on your horse. It's then the grays, light grays, and the blue, maybe a little bit of blue, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been what would have been the first ones before the colored yarn came in from Germantown, Pennsylvania.
So basically, they were doing the Ralph Lauren. They were taking some people that didn't have nothing. They were sending them the stuff. They were making sweaters. They were making rugs, because that's what polo sweaters used to do.
Yeah.
Or Calvin Klein would sell $1,000 sweater, and they'd find some old lady to do it, and they'd give them $20.
So Mr. Burnham is a buff on Germantown rugs and has a wealth of knowledge in those things, and like the eye dazzler. I mean, there's that language of what the symbolism is in the rug is something that's lost on me. I bought Roy a rug 2 years in a row for his anniversary present.
I would like something like that. That would mean something to me because I like old stuff.
Yeah, well, the Burnhams would be your place to go. But maybe I'll just go and invite you to come to Santa Fe during the middle of August. You don't have any birds flying over then.
No,
so
but with this TV show, I don't know where we're going to be. But
you'd be at Santa Fe doing a show there.
I enjoy stuff like this. I was around expensive rugs though when I was in college. Worked at a furniture store, and they sold expensive rugs from Iran and Iraq.
$36,000.
They have a lot more than that. I'd go to the Faizi store.
Like Persian rugs.
Yeah, Persian. That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, and no doubt those are great. Those are beautiful rugs.
I don't like them though.
Well, I'm not
my thing.
Well, the design of them, I would much rather have a Navajo rug, but it's kind of hard for me to say, let's get one and throw it on the floor and walk.
$36,000. I just can't see that either.
Now
Just
we've got a
walk all over
really
it.
good friend that is part of that comes every year to Santa Fe and he buys rugs and is quite the connoisseur. Is a wonderful gentleman. He lives in Grand Junction, Colorado, and he shares with us what they're doing. But he and his wife would buy rugs every year. He comes, and I'm thinking, how many rugs can you have? She says, "Oh, we have rugs.
They hang them on the walls."
Well, but they hang them, but they change them out seasonally.
Oh,
and that many rugs, and they're stored in chests. But it's like collecting a gold brick. I mean, you're investing in something that's going to keep. But I loved the story of the Germantown rug and how that birthed, so to speak. And those were invented in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, at where they were incarcerated.
Yeah, Andy.
So,
more to Fort Sumner.
I
again.
never said Fort Sumner wasn't history rich. I said it's not a appealing place on the ice.
One of my bucket list places in our country. I'm big on going to America and seeing all. I want to see every bit of the United States, and I like the little nooks and crannies. and I've never been to the Pueblo where the Four Corners are. That's one place I would really like to go. And I was hoping this summer sometime me and Michelle could do a road trip where I could go there, but I don't think it's going to happen.
You need to do the mesas. You need to go see the dwellings.
I want to do that really, really, really bad.
Now, right where Roy lives, where he was raised at Roosevelt Lake, Arizona, there's a cliff dwelling there that's on the Forest Service.
I would love to see that.
You're invited.
The Magdalena that you talk about, it's pretty funny because I've been hearing that word before, and I'm thinking, who the hell talks about Magdalena? Harry that works for us, his family had ranch at Reserve. He grew up at Reserve. Magdalena's a long ass way from Fort Sumner, though.
It's a long way.
Yeah,
4 hours.
Yeah, because I was looking on the map. I thought that's got to be more than 45 minutes.
No, it's 4 hours.
4 hours
Fort
away.
Sumner.
But I've heard him talk about Magdalena because when you're in Reserve, you either got to go up to Magdalena and go across, or you got to go all the way down and around.
So it was a huge cattle hub. There's a huge old stockyard cattle pens and so forth that are in Magdalena because the railroad goes through there. The BNSF runs through there, and you talk about making you see the real western of that country. It's open expanse. You might see some rise of mountains in the back, but when that train's going by at 65 miles an hour, that's 2 miles long. It's awesome. It's beautiful, but that is old. That's back of the old days, and so. But Magdalena was a big cattle hub, huge big cattle hub. And they had a lot of timber there, too. You know, they cut a lot of pine in the Magdalena Mountains. That was a pretty big industry back in the day until it's all forest now.
Isn't it sad that our little towns all across the world have died? I mean, unless you go to the Northeast and you got to get in the upper Midwest where little towns of 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 are still pretty vibrant and stuff. Like Knox City, she's on life support right now. Benjamin's on life. Benjamin is down to where it's going to be at. Knox City's going to get down to that probably one day. All these little towns, because there's no jobs, there's no industry. People don't have a lot of kids like they used to anymore. We were a lot better off when everybody had 160 acres and had their own milking cow and their chickens. And they made a living.
Well, I'll tell you what the problem.
Wait a minute. I got to insert this. Do you have chickens here?
No.
Gosh dang it. I had 2 dozen eggs to bring to you, and I walked off and forgot them. So note to self.
I'm going to get.
I've got chickens.
We're going to. I talked to me and Tony were going to get about 20 chickens to keep up here because the end of the world's coming, and by God, we're going to have scrambled eggs.
I wondered how the garden went last year.
It went to shit. He's not doing one this year. We're fixing to No.
He quit one bad year. He'd have never made it in that ranch in life.
He's got to sit on the dock of the bay, and that's all he's going to do.
He told me, he said, last year it never rained, and everything that did come up, the deer ate me out of house and home.
Or the grasshopper came along and took it.
We bought a fence, a deer-proof fence. He said they walked right through that damn thing. So I asked him the other day, he said, I'm not planting nothing. So at my house, I'm fixing to buy cucumbers, tomatoes, and we're going to plant them.
That's all you need.
We're going to plant
them.
them.
All you need.
We're going to plant them in planters.
You
at the
say
house.
that every year.
No, Mom wants them, and we're fixing
every year.
We're going to buy them when we get back from Nashville.
The problem
Knoxville,
with these little small towns is
jobs.
You.
How am I?
You're taking
you need to be the mayor
you're
again.
taking valuable housing.
You need to be the mayor again because we need another concert, for God's sakes. We hadn't had any music since then, except what blows on Isabella's intercom.
I'm not ever running for office of any kind.
You run from it, not for it.
I've done all the political.
Girl,
you spend 10 years as mayor in a small town.
She was president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jeff. She knows all about it.
Yeah,
but I was I wasn't a pleaser. I just kind of worked it. I mean, I tried to do. I enjoyed that. But I ran for school board over there. Thank God, he said, "Snatch your nope, not for you."
I'm not ever
I'm
doing
on school board here.
I'm not ever doing anything ever again. Civic. I will help. I will donate money. I will donate
all about
my time.
It. Yeah.
But I am not doing. I've spent.
I don't want that title.
15 years as a judge. 10 years.
That's where your hair went?
Yes.
Yeah.
10 years as a mayor. I done my time at someone else's time. But I'm not happy with the way things are.
It's a different mentality. People have a different mentality than back in the day. I remember my parents and all. Of course, I went to private school in Mississippi, and not private school like parochial school, but it was just private school because of integration, and which is a sad thing. What we built, the families built schools that the white kids went to, and then the black kids took the public school. So it's a whole different world down there. It's like cordoned off, but parents were very involved and integrated in the well-being of their kids and the study of their kids, the curriculum that they got. Now it's about, like you said, woke, and everybody gets a prize and nobody gets their feelings hurt and all that. And it really takes the fun out of everything. Kids are miserable in school, I think, for the most part. I'd like to think that our 3 schools in this one little poor county get the best.
We need one school.
We do.
Yes, I think so.
Well, it makes kind of sense.
We're not big enough to have 3 schools no more. And Andy's on school board, and our superintendent's a great friend of ours. But I think we need one school. I think we're cheating our kids by not having one school.
Has it ever been tossed around in
No,
the board meeting? Not even going to get to that level.
I'm going to tell you why. First of all, I want to find out why it's my fault our towns are dying.
Because you're taking valuable housing.
Huh?
You're taking
because it's just me and Mom.
You live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and
we have a 4-bedroom.
But there's houses for sale in Knox City.
No, there's no houses.
Houses with acres
in Knox City.
Oh yeah,
not very much. Not very affordable housing.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Affordable housing. My house ain't gonna be affordable either.
Like if a new coach were to come, but what did you buy your house for?
Not much, but I wouldn't sell it for.
I bought my house for $38,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, over 2,000 square.
Yeah, but you're a carpenter.
But I got one of the last ones too, though.
Yeah.
Like if me and Jesse and the boys had to do this again, there's not anywhere that we would stay.
Pick and slam, yeah. Well, you're in,
You know why I don't
you
sell
can't
my
build
house?
one because there's no builder, and if you could afford it,
Right.
there's the other.
If we sold our house, we talked about this. We could put our house up and make a big profit off of it right now. But it would take our profit plus more to build something.
You
another
can't
house.
replace it.
That's right. We got 3,500 square feet. You can't build that for what we could.
Oh, well, where I live.
Yes.
Rolled into that, it's like, okay,
Right.
we do have a swing on the back porch. It's still hanging.
It's still hanging. Good.
But so it's my fault we're leaving. But
no.
But what were we talking about before then?
Schools.
Why
we don't do it because of the old timers. Because too many people are instilled these built-in rivalries, and we don't want to give this up, and we don't want to give this up. If we wanted to do what's best for our children, Haskell County's the same way. Haskell County should have one school, Haskell High School.
It would kill this county because you're cutting your jobs down by 2/3.
That part I agree with you on.
You're cutting your jobs down by 66%.
What would it be? What size of school would it be?
It'd be a big 1A, big 1A.
Well, yeah.
If you did Knox,
if you did Knox City, Monday, and Benjamin, you would have
220 kids in high school.
You wouldn't be a long two.
We wouldn't even be. Yeah, we'd be a 2A school now, but we would be 180 kids in high school probably. What Knox City's got? What 70? I saw these numbers last night. Monday's got 85.
They probably got the same amount as us. But
140, and Benjamin throw in there 20 kids, 160, 170 kids, which would be a lot better than what we have now.
So you're saying it would be a 2A school?
It would be a 2A school combined. We'd play 11-man sports.
Oh, yeah.
We would be very good in everything we do. Mm-hmm. We could give our children so much more than they get.
Yeah.
I don't think because they get a pretty good education here.
We would still get a good education.
In Knox City? I don't know much about the Knox City.
What are we going to offer that we don't already offer by cutting these? You're going to lose 2 superintendents. You're going to lose, I don't know how many principals. You're going to cut your teacher force down by
I said
half.
What's best for the kids. I didn't say what's best for adults.
How's it best for the kids?
I think because our kids could compete a lot more, and I think we could offer more. We could offer more science classes.
What are you talking about? We offer the max in science classes.
We have chemistry too.
Yes, you come out of high school having an associate's degree in college basically anymore.
So they do dual coursing, which is a cool thing.
We have that. I just think it would
I mean,
our kids
what do you want?
More.
You want them to come out with a bachelor's degree?
I want my grandkids'
We want to come out, go big or go home, state rings on their hands, and walking and knowing what.
Mine's more about athletics. I want my grandsons to be able to play high school baseball if they want to.
Okay.
I want them to be able to play 11-man football if they want to.
That's your big hang up. Is you just don't like 6-man. That's what
it
all.
Here's
it has nothing to do with the education. It's got to do with.
If you look at it, you've got 6-man, is it, and Benjamin?
Yes. 6-man here.
And a great nucleus of young women that do the women's sports, and then the boys trade it off however. But what gets me is there's UIL and, theater and drama and golf and cross country and track, and I mean it's and Monday I think just started softball, and I'm like, how can these kids and these little bitty, not enough men to go around?
They're busy.
I'd have gone mad if I was the one I told. And fortunately, when the girls were in school, mine, it was one sport at a time. Of course, I think Jessen did FFA for a time. We didn't, get much past that, but they played every sport. But every sport had its synchronized time, and that was it. And because in the middle of one sport, you're practicing for another. No,
right?
We don't do that here either.
You know what I'm saying? But I think kids are so covered up, and they're just burnt out, and they don't get to really, to me, absorb and enjoy the moment that they're in.
Right.
And really become good at what they're at. And then I saw a new sport, it was about video tech or something. What is that called? Sports
yeah.
But they have now as part
it's like
of
Call of Duty and stuff like that.
Like video games.
Video games.
Yeah.
But we could offer more if here it is. I want my grandkids. Hold on, just a minute.
It's got nothing to do with education. It's got all to do with football.
As long as they can write their name and count, they were good.
There's more to school. You can learn more. A kid could learn more coming out here and hanging out for a day than you can learn in class in a day. And a lot of things.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
But I want my grandkids to be able, because I saw when Andy was in school, we were 130 kids in school, and we got a lot more offered. We weren't embarrassing to go play baseball. We were a legit baseball team. Our girls could play legit. If we had
baseball and softball all comes down to one position at these small schools, and that's, do you have a pitcher? We had pitchers.
Do you have a pitcher?
But if you have 100,
if we didn't have a pitcher, we would have been awful.
Get a glass of water.
Yeah.
But if we had 180 kids in our high school, we could compete in a lot more sports and our kids could all get. I'm not thinking the kids get to Division I.
So I just looked at I just saw these numbers last night. I cannot remember, but do you know over the 50-year average? We did a 50-year average. Do you know what the average class size of Knox City is? From the good old days.
Oh, probably 32.
21.2 kids. That goes back to 1979.
That's pretty good size. That's decent size.
Hold on. You take off the last.
Do you know what we're at? Do you know what we're at right now?
No.
We're at 17.3.
You take off
so you've lost 4 kids in 50 years.
No,
4 and 5.
Those numbers are skewed, though. Hold on. You take away the 30 years before the last 20 when we started going down. What was the average class? 40 kids?
No.
When your mom was in school.
We looked at the numbers just last night. The average I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember one of the big classes. There was never 40 kids in a single class ever. It was always the 17 to 25. It's been that way since the 70s.
The long 2As and 3s are probably in that realm of numbers in their class. But I was going to ask you, have you seen the scuttlebutt from Childress's new No 4-day?
A lot of schools are doing that.
But I've got a friend that is on the board there, and I read his post yesterday apologizing for, you might not agree with me, but they voted down a 4-day.
Didn't Benjamin vote to go to 4 days next year?
Benjamin's 4-day, Haskell's 4-day, Mundy and Knox City are still 5-day. Haskell is 4-day in the second semester.
The biggest comment
so they're doing 5 during football season.
I guess.
Let's be honest, that's what it's about.
The biggest comment, or the main comment that I got out of his post of talking about that yesterday was the fact that the COVID kids that missed 2 years of school, and we've got to catch them back up. So losing a day of the week to school, he voted against it. So I guess it didn't pass. So they're still in 5 days at Childress, but COVID did a number on.
Oh, it killed kids. It robbed them of 2 years. So we went up northeast a year after we were better, and kids still weren't in school in a lot of places. We went to Boston that summer,
still not.
And they had dust on cars, was an inch or two thick. People hadn't even left their houses in 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
My.
And they opened the door with masks and gloves on and stuff. Fauci and them lied to those people.
See what I'm thinking? This is a quality of lifestyle. It's called, and common sense.
Yeah, well, they don't have a lot of that in some places.
I don't know that you can teach common sense. You have to experience common sense,
yes.
and you have to make your brain have to work and live through those things. And the COVID deal, of course, it was a health crisis throughout. However, again, common sense. But that's a whole melt of our whole.
The 4-day week has gotten started because now Texas runs off of minutes. You go, your school year ends whenever you've reached your whatever the criteria of minutes are. So they figured out if you go to school if you start your first bell rings at 7:40 and the last bell rings at 4:20 or something like that, you can make up that day's difference over the course of the year, and you can get your quote unquote minutes without sacrificing any time. Basically, because it is a trend and it is something that we have obviously talked about. You cut out any fluff of your day. So like Knox City, when I was in school, we had a break. It was 15 minutes.
There's no recess anymore.
Right. So
you either play sports or you don't get any athletics.
You get rid of all of the fluff. So like there's a tutorial period there up there now. If you've got below 72 or whatever, you got to go to that class. You would just basically, you would lengthen your class periods and you would just get away. You'd cut out any fat, and it's just we're running bare bones, and you're gonna get what you need.
Yeah,
I'm not totally opposed to the 4-day week, because when I was in college, I didn't ever go to class on Friday. It was
and that's a good thing. If you like to work, and I presume you probably worked or had a job, and you did something, and got a nephew that's doing the same thing. But
I would structure it to where I could come out here. I could leave Lubbock on Thursday after class, and then I'd work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I was back in Lubbock. So, I mean, when the kids graduate high school, they're gonna have, they're gonna be able to kind of do what they want to do. So, I'm not totally against the 4-day week. I'm not totally for it, because I think,
And homeschool?
I used to really be against homeschool, but
I'm for
it
now.
Kids that are being homeschooled are not practicing active shooter drills. So
active shooter drills?
Yeah.
They carry guns.
Exactly.
In the Western lifestyle.
But I think homeschooling is good now, and I used to be against it.
Kids that are in public school, they've got tornado, they've got fire, and then they've got active shooter drills that they have to practice.
Outside of extracurricular activities such as sports, I think homeschool is the way to go. I'm gonna step that back a little bit. My grandkids go to school in either Throckmorton, Haskell, or Knox City. Small schools. Schools aren't bad here. I don't have a problem with any one of those schools. They get so I don't have a problem. If my kid was going to school in Dallas, Abilene, Wichita Falls, I ain't so sure. Other than the extracurricular activities, I wouldn't want them going to school. Way too much things kids are being around now. Now we're fixing to go through something called Trank, however you want to say it, TRANQ. And it's going to be something in the news.
Is that part of LGBTQ?
No. This is a horrible drug that's coming out. Fentanyl's not enough. We ain't enough people dying from fentanyl. So now we're going to start mixing it up with a horse tranquilizer. Kids are going to be dropping dead left and right this summer over it.
What is the?
It's called Trank. And I can't remember. It's not ketamine, but it's an animal medicine.
Equine, or you don't know what animal?
It's a horse. It's a horse. It's a painkiller for horses of some sort. So some idiot has decided, you know what, we can mix that with fentanyl and we can even kill more people. They say it is a deadly, deadly cocktail, and it is going to be going around starting this summer big time. It's going to be the new thing.
We didn't do
mixed
drugs.
with quilazine. I can pull it up. This word right there.
Is that xylazine?
Xylazine?
I don't know how you pronounce that.
An animal tranquilizer.
Xylazine, I guess.
And it's going to be called Trank.
And TRANQ is what you say.
It's the worst there's ever been, they say. And they say it is horrible. And it is going to be making its rounds. And it's starting at spring break right now. And it's going to be coming around. But we just can't come up with enough shit to kill or poison ourselves. So these kids, and it's young people. They just can't get high enough. And I just don't. And that's just. But anyways, it's stuff like this.
It can depress breathing, blood pressure, heart rate, and body temperature to critical levels. So basically, you just drift away.
Yep, and just die.
Goodbye.
And Narcan doesn't work on this.
Oh, great. So, I mean, there is obviously there is an argument for homeschooling. Out here, I don't think so, because the schools are good, teachers are good.
There's still some common family core.
I mean, now
ethics.
there are shitheads, but
every school's got shitheads. But we have ethics still here, and we're still small enough. But I've noticed a change in the school just since my kids have been out, even in Knox City. It's different than it used to be. It's not because of the teachers and stuff. Society is just different.
It's the government regulation of what you have to be. New regulations, probably right. We've lost the Western way of life, and the quality of lifestyle is diminishing because of rules and regulations, and we got to give this one, that one, and other.
Yeah.
Homeschooling is a big part of the Western industry. Like in when we lived in New Mexico, a lot of our friends lived far out on ranches, and so they homeschool their kids. Great kids.
Yeah.
They could only be involved in like 4-H or those programs.
That's
like that.
what I hate to see, a kid lose his extracurricular
But
stuff.
look at the education, because they're right along with mom and dad doing life. And I think you made a good statement a minute ago. Hands-on in life is where you learn, and
Yes.
that's the common sense. Like I said, common sense I think is so bred out of, I don't mind putting the kids in the sandbox and letting them play in dirt and flop in a mud hole, and I mean that seems so insignificant. But we just hauled cattle yesterday and we're riding in the semi, and it's like they know all about that. They know all about every tractor there is. When we go to church, there's a tractor lot there in Anson. We go through there, and we can read off every number, and we're only 3.
And they love that.
Oh my gosh, it just incredible. So homeschooling, and I am kind of along your thinking too, is that there's so many things that kids are exposed to because of the family nucleus changing, that we don't particularly want them exposed to, like 2 moms, 2 heads, whatever. It's you want to keep them as wholesome as possible, because eventually they'll have to face that. And so at home, you can teach them. And
that's a delicate balance too, because I also, I've got my 2 boys are 8 and 4. I mean, I know that there's going to come a day when my oldest recognizes, hey, there's 2 dads over there.
Right.
What's that about?
Yeah.
I know it's a conversation I'm going to have, but I don't want to have it when he's 8.
No.
Or in kindergarten.
No.
So
he's smarter than you think he is.
Or watching it on cartoon.
Right,
I mean,
I
filter every
it's
TV.
ridiculous. You can't even hardly watch Disney or Nickelodeon anymore.
Exactly. So
They'll
you cut
sneak it in there.
My grandkids want to go Disney World next year. And I don't know about that. And then Michelle's like, Jeff, we need to go, blah, blah. Then Andy's wife explained that Andy doesn't really want to go to Disney World either. And
if the men say no, we're not going. I told them, Nan is not going there. Y'all can go have all the fun you want, but I'm not going.
I don't want to go because I don't want to deal with the crowd being hot. And I don't like all of Disney's crap that they do.
Yeah.
I've been 3 times. That's been enough. But but I wouldn't want I would like my grandkids to expose to the Disney World, the fun part. But the rest of it, I really don't give a shit if we go Disney World or not. I really don't. I'd rather go rent a house on the beach.
I think we got
for a week.
more appeal out of the field rat or field mouse that Roy trapped in the other day than seeing the Mickey Mouse. I mean, that's a reality.
Yeah.
That thing he needed. What's he doing in there? Oh, that thing snapped his head off. That's what it did.
And I'll tell you another thing real quick. We need to get off here pretty quick because we've been here almost 2 hours.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, 2.5 hours. We over-educate people. Now, this is people are going to disagree with me on this, and I don't really care, but this is my opinion, and it's not worth shit, but it is my opinion. If you want to be a doctor in the world, you've got to go through so much bullshit to even learn how to be a doctor. Why don't we take our bright young minds and let them work with a cardiac surgeon? I mean, we're not
hands off.
Yeah.
Not running the scalpel.
No, but let him sit and learn.
Learn by doing.
Yeah.
And let him learn from a guy like that. In 3 years, you can have another wonderful heart surgeon. He will learn more working with that guy every day for 3 years than to spend 12 years going to college and learning how to play volleyball and bowling and all that other bullshit. And I think we lose a lot of bright minds to that.
Well,
Yeah,
hands-on opportunity.
Yeah.
The book can tell you a lot of stuff, but the book is written by a man that wants you to learn what he's put in it, too.
I asked a really dumb question last year. We had a family, and they were an architect family. Mom, dad, like all of them. Well, now the daughter is an architect. I didn't know anything about the education that an architect had. I just figured
Draw a building.
You got your square corners, and you just go
Good.
up. And I was like, and he was bragging about, the education of his daughter and all this. And I'm like, that's good. But I'm like,
what did she do?
What did she do that she couldn't have done if she'd have just gone to your firm and
learned it,
worked under you for
and been
4
helping
years
you
and saved money?
Exactly.
But
nothing.
It's kind of my dumb question of the day. Evidently, you got to have certificates and all this other
engineering, a lot of different
things. But that goes
things.
back to government regulations. They're saying that you have to have this piece of paper. Well, guess what? There's still stone roads over in the old country that are perfectly functional today. That are way better than the crap that we drive on here.
Right.
So they didn't have a 6-year college degree that they had to go get.
Yeah.
I think
A lot of Italy's still standing.
there's a lot of the world, or a lot of the ways that things were done a long time ago were not bad. The education system, though, is all about making money.
Sure. Everything has seemed like.
But in 1920, if you were a smart kid and you were smart enough to go to medical school, you went to medical school. I don't think you had to go to college first to go to medical school.
And it was legacy too. It wasn't
Yes.
so much that, I mean, if your family or had an aunt or uncle or your dad or mom were in attorney or a medical or whatever, that was legacy. You're going to go do that
Right.
or be
Yes.
aspire to something. And the kids like me that were blue collar kids, and I have a brain.
Yeah.
But no, you're just gonna, and so you're left aside. I know what that was in school. I'm glad for the hard work that I did. We just talked about mowing a 5-acre yard with a push mower. I mean, really, and riding lawnmower. Gosh, I got to have a 0 turn today.
Right.
Roy fixed that thing.
Right.
So to do a square block, not big, but
I mowed
work
yards
is-
when I was a kid.
Work doesn't hurt anybody, and I appreciate the fact that I can work, because I can look at a neighbor and say the health is bad and they can't get out or whatever. So blessed we are.
When
And
we are.
kids need to know how to sell. Reese is selling PTO tickets, and
he sold out.
I have made it a point that you go talk to him.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, only if I get any mileage on this thing. I mean, gosh, I'm trying to raise money too.
Right.
Jeez.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I'm not going to sell them for you.
Well, I
He's-
think that's
like,
a lot of you.
I can-
You
I
have
can
to be
make-
able to go.
I
Now,
can make the connection, but
Sure.
you need to go tell
Walk
them
up
what
to
this is for, what they're
What's it for?
getting. You get a hamburger or whatever the
Didn't he
deal
sell
is.
out?
He got more tickets. They're only giving them 5 at a time because I guess tickets
They
are
lose
really
'em.
selling.
So
Yeah,
here's the
right.
thing: when I have kids, whatever it is, if I'm asked
Mm-hmm.
and said, I'm selling this for whatever to raise money for my class or whatever, I always contribute
Mm-hmm.
if I'm asked by the kid.
Right.
And I might ask a question or two and try to encourage their conversation to
Mm-hmm.
help them feel better about it and more ease to do it,
Right.
because you never get it if you don't ask.
Right.
And no one's going to haul your hand the whole life. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be able to navigate that conversation. The dad, you're on the school board. You can get this for
Right,
us.
right,
You got the
Yeah.
podcast and you can get this. But I think it's really good. It's a good education for kids to have their parent that's a security
Mm-hmm.
that encourages them and nudges them in that direction, because I think that is part of life that's coming, whether you're in your
Right.
own business and you got to sell your talent or your business
Mm-hmm.
or for somebody else, whatever that turns out to be. But so whatever PTO is, I knew that was a hookup to a tractor, but
Parent teacher organization.
we didn't have PTO. My mom was it.
I was a salesman when I was little. When I would sell candy bars, but I was motivated by a hamburger supper, because we got to get a big Scotty burger in Wichita Falls if you were the number one seller at my little elementary. And I went to a poor white trash elementary in Wichita Falls. I was one of the smartest kids in class. So I always got. I would
You were
get
up
done
there.
with my work in 10 minutes.
Teacher's pet.
And I would never up to pet. They didn't like me, but I would get my work done in
He'd get
5
his
or
work
10
done,
minutes.
and then he'd cause a disruption.
I'd go. So they'd send me to the library. So I'd read a book every day. I'd be done with class in 10 minutes. I'd go to the library 10 times a day probably, and I'd read all the
Nerd.
time.
Yeah.
It wasn't that either.
I did. Did you know Cliff Notes?
No, this was way before Cliff Notes even, basically, because I was
I
still in
don't know.
elementary.
Oh, okay.
But I would read a book every day. I'd read books. But I also got to be the bus monitor, so I'd get to go home an hour when the little kids would get out of school. I'd get to go home. I'd sell all my candy bars to all the old ladies before everybody else got out of school. So I'd wipe them out fast.
Marketer.
So I would sell shit.
Con.
But back to the salesman stuff with kids. What kills me, pisses me off, is when someone gets on freaking Facebook and they say, Jack's trying to raise money for class right now, so if you want to contribute, just here it is, and blah, blah, blah. No bullshit. Make that little kid, like you said, go sell something.
I will, if
And
you
another
ask.
thing that wears my ass out, if you want a graduation announcement, here, just let me know and give me your
Or
address.
wedding.
We'll send you.
Yeah,
Emily
if
Post is not happy about that, I'll tell you.
If
She's
your
not.
ass ain't sending me something, I'm not sending you nothing.
you don't know me
I'm not
enough
gonna
to-
ask
to
for
know-
it.
Yes.
yeah.
I'm not
going to
say-
ask for a
yeah.
a wedding invite. If
So
you want me
just
there,
so you
you'll find
know,
my
bring
address.
the kid by the house or catch me somewhere. But yeah,
I thought we bought him out last night at our house. That's why I said that.
well,
No,
get 5 more.
But
and I don't know how much they are,
But the ding,
But kids have to know how to,
Yeah.
communicate.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you can sell, you've got a bright future ahead of you.
And 4 years old, your second, 3 year.
8 and 4.
The 8-year-old selling the tickets.
Oh, I thought it was a younger one, but
No.
he
Elementary.
could, yeah.
But you got these wedding announcements. Listen to you, lady. I'm telling you right now. Everybody listen to this shit. If you send me a wedding announcement, I don't want to come to your wedding.
Yeah. I'm not knocking
I want
on
the
your
party.
Yeah.
I was going to go to Douglas Spell's wedding. I can't go because we're going to be filming a show in Michigan, and I hate that because I wanted to go to that wedding. But most people that send me a wedding announcement, I don't want to go to that wedding, and I damn sure don't want to go to a graduation.
They want the gift.
Yeah, exactly.
So we were having a conversation. Emily Post is big time in my life because of Mississippi, and so I was telling the girls about. She said, I just get these invitations, and I said, well, wedding showers and all that were back in the day because the lady was living with her mom and dad, had nothing. The guy had nothing. So you showered the bride and groom with those essentials that they needed, a crock pot or whatever, I said, today they've known each other long enough. They've lived together. They've got a house together. Or they've been on their own in separate, and they're pulling two houses together. There's no need for that. Just go celebrate, So I said, Jessen said, I never really knew that. I said, yeah, that's the whole point of that. So it's a kapoom, big blowout thing, but
different world now.
Yeah. Emily Post was big, and we critique things, but a Southern girl I am. So
what's the proper etiquette if someone says no at the altar? Are you supposed to get your gifts back?
You should.
Okay.
I would think so.
I saw Sanford and Son the other night, and Lamont got turned down on the deal, and Fred and then all the
Fred
people,
took his stuff
all
back.
the relatives wanted their gifts back.
And they should. Did you see the spoof on Sanford Son, which was great? The
Great
greatest
show.
of all. But it had Fred Sanford had Donald Trump's head on his
Yes,
face.
I've seen it.
You seen it?
Yes.
I like, oh my gosh, somebody asked, I wanted to share it. And I went, I'll get bashed. I'm not going to share it.
Esther is Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Is who it was.
Oh, and then Waters, Maxine Waters, was somebody else, the other uppity lady that was on the show. And I thought, oh my gosh, whoever created that did a great deal. But
before we get off, and this will probably
I
lead
got to
us
have one
another
more
thing.
plug anyway.
Yeah, you'll get that. You alluded to you went to a segregated school.
I went. Yes, I went to a private school.
What was that like?
In Mississippi?
Yes.
I remember we moved there, and I went to elementary school 1 through 3 in a public school, and it was just white because in my area there were white schools and black schools that were African American, whatever I need to say, but they were two different, but both public schools. But the way that the community was zoned or lined or separated or whatever, my sister and brother and I, we were going to have to go into the building that was the black school, and we were moving at the time into Mississippi from Louisiana, and I remember my grandfather, my uncles, and everybody, the community came together and put in money stock to build a school, and it's still standing there today. I don't remember what year it was I started there, but private school did not receive federal funding. It was all, white. And around the neighborhood and all of Mississippi, the Mississippi Private School Association, Louisiana started that. Of course, Baton Rouge and that area had a lot of public schools that are really wonderful schools, and they still, but competition was just between private schools. So they were small, but every small town like Knox City had a private school that was white, and then the African-American school that was a public school. So we abandoned public school education until most recent years, I'll say 10, 15 years, probably they started taking federal funding because they decided to accept applications from others, whether it were Hispanic or because that influence has also integrated the South, but we had a lot of the things we had great sports, and football is king everywhere in the South, SEC, but it was good. And I had wonderful ladies that were my teachers and coaches and so forth. But today it's a little bit different, and it cost a parent, upwards maybe of $600 a month to send kids to school there when you have a public school that the government's playing.
Right.
So but it's still a battle, and not one I want to be a part of. So I see the spectrum on homeschooling to church schools to public school to small town, all that. there's a place for it all, and I think the opportunity to have a choice of it now is even more predominant just because of the way the world is. So. But yeah, I went to.
What was it
school.
like in town? Like, you got this. Did you have the white and black clash like you saw during the civil rights days, or had that kind of settled down?
My family was rooted in the community, real agriculture based and long standing in the community, and so we had a lot of African Americans, still do a lot of African American friends and family members and people that are they're just really good people. But then the new generation of we've affirmative action, or we've been done wrong, or whatever, the plantation life or whatever. Same with Native Americans. That was then. This is now.
Right.
People, let's move on. Nothing in your life hangs on that, hangs in the balance. So it is a divided world, and it's a much different world than out here where you do have integration of a lot of cultures and nationalities. It's really predominantly black and white down there, and it really is a lot of that. And I go home and I think, oh my goodness, it's so difficult because the mindset is so segregated, and so you can get yourself caught up in it really quick. But people are people. God put us all here for a reason. And so you just have to but once you get out of that and you go to the world, there are some terrific people that have been a part of our life and our girls growing up life that have, contributed part of the reason why we're where we are, and they're just good people. So it's hard. I think a lot of people need to get out of their own way and, think about things in a little bit more rationale than, what's been handed down over generations, and what was then is not now necessarily.
Everybody has been oppressed. Like, you're not going to find a group of people on this earth that was not oppressed at some point.
Yeah.
Women were oppressed, white people were oppressed, white men were oppressed, black people were oppressed. Like, everybody's had a very, very hard road to get to where we are today.
Well, and if you think about it, somebody's oppressed just in their personal life. It's just by the circumstance of life. So oppression is how you view it and see it. It's just, God says this, for I know the plans I have for you, said the Lord, so here it is. This is a plan. But, when you follow that, you understand that, okay, I'm going to come out on the other side. It may be tough, and nobody said it was going to be easy ever. So you just had to have faith and walk in it. But you never mentioned one thing about, I'm turning the table on you, but you never mentioned one thing about opening of turkey season in the South.
I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, it opened.
I was scouting this morning.
It opened in Mississippi while I was there. Mm-hmm. You talk about, they lose their head. Those, not the turkeys. Not the turkeys. But my family's really big on turkey hunting, and it's a precise little sport for sure, but fun in the piney woods of Mississippi. But anyway, so when does it open here?
It opens next weekend here. We got 2 people next weekend, and then...
Are there turkey here in Knox County?
I was scouting this morning, and they were going crazy on this one little piece of property we got. I bet
Tell me where it is. Where's that gobbler?
It's right by your house.
Where's that gobbler?
It's right by your house.
Right by your house.
Has he got a long beard?
There's a couple long beards out there.
Roy said he saw some on the river the other day, but it's that bad old woods down on the, in the river
There's a
country.
bunch down there.
They roost,
When we used to hunt, when we used to have that property, like right on the river, that's where they...
So now what is it Merriam or?
Rios.
No, Rios.
Rios. And that's what we had in Kansas. We had really good turkey in Kansas.
Very good. Let's give your plug.
Give my plug. Miss Rodeo America Scholarship Foundation. 25th anniversary this year. I'm wearing the scarf that we had to commemorate it. My mom and dad my mother was a chaperone to Miss Rodeo America contestants. Now, a background on that. Miss Rodeo America is the ambassador to the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and the Western way of life. And she travels the United States to represent rodeo and anything she can to benefit the goodwill and the forward thinking of rodeo and Western. When I competed, I was Miss Rodeo Louisiana a long time ago, in 1982 actually. So I got the privilege of traveling and going, and then I took an internship just immediately following my title to the PRCA in Colorado Springs, and I got to work in their museum, the Hall of Champions, and be the hostess there, and met some wonderful people. Was there for a long summer. And then that was when the National Finals Rodeo was being held in Oklahoma City at the Myriad. shortly after that, my mom loved it so much that she somehow got herself volunteered into being a chaperone for Miss Rodeo America contestants during that contest, which is held in December during the week prior to the National Finals Rodeo. Well, I think about 84 is when they held the last NFR at the Myriad in Oklahoma City, and it moved to Las Vegas right after that. My mom was a chaperone there, and she paced that for about 16 years, chaperoning contestants. In that time, I was raising my girls on the ranch and kind of took my hand out of it. I used to serve on the horsemanship committee and the coronation, different committees with Miss Rodeo America, and then I raised my girls, and my mom did that. And then she said, I don't need to keep this pace any longer. So she decided they started the Scholarship Foundation. So that's 25 years ago this year. And what that encompassed on its initial was during the contest, Miss Rodeo America contest, they would sell roses, stemmed roses, as congratulatory best wishes for people, friends and neighbors, family, to send to the contestant during their week of competition with a note of well-being and whatever. And we raised money. My mother ordered the roses from our kitchen counter in Mississippi for years that would be on hand in Las Vegas at the whatever hotel they were at. And then she would get there and she actually would prepare the roses, stem them and de-thorn them and ribbon them. And my dad was right along her side. They did that for another 16 or 18 years until my dad had an accident on a tractor and my mom's, they became ill and couldn't go. So that's been about 5 years now. They've not been involved. But all of those funds raised and generated through that medium went in to start. And then the Wrangler Corporation, for Wrangler Jeans, put in a sum of money, as seed money, to kind of lay a foundation for the beginning of the Miss Rodeo America Scholarship Foundation. We became a 501c3 nonprofit, and we work hand in hand with Miss Rodeo America, Inc., which is the organization that hosts the contest, Miss Rodeo America pageant. And so young ladies, young women from across the United States, each state holds their respective Miss Rodeo Texas, Miss Rodeo, Louisiana, whatever state it is. And then they all conjoin for the finale in Las Vegas during the Miss Rodeo America pageant. And every year we host a Bucks for Bags auction. So each state queen brings a bag of choice, leather bag or whatever, full of commemorative items of her state. And it's live auctioned. Those funds, along with the stemmed roses, are put into our scholarship foundation. And we, this year, for 28 contestants, we don't have all the states represented by whatever means, Eastern, nobody to do it, whatever. So in the neighborhood of 28 to 30, 34, something like, varies every year, but we gave away $105,000 in scholarships this year to 28 young women. Over the 25 years, we've graduated women from law school, vet school, by the numbers, some aeronautical things, their own businesses, teachers, every genre of life. And we're not just so laned that we do just educational scholarships to the college of their choice. We give them now because the young women that compete are older and they have generally completed their bachelor's, but we are able to pay off their tuition, student debt that they may have, or give them a scholarship toward a professional licensure that they may want to pursue, a flying or be a farrier. As long as it's an accredited school, then we are willing to do that. So there's some criteria, but it's never put in their hands. It goes directly to their institution. But I think it's a wonderful thing. So $100,000 for 25 years, $2.5 million or whatever over the course of time, give or take, is a big deal to have started on stemmed roses.
Yes,
Wow.
it is.
Yeah.
And we still do that today. So we do the groundwork. We've got a board of about 9 members, and we're all integrated in our respective fields of professions or life. I don't have a profession, I guess, but we contribute our lane, and so we're working board. Nobody's paid, but every dollar goes into the Miss Rodeo America Scholarship
How do they
Foundation.
get a hold of you online? Do you have an online place for people to donate?
Yes, MissRodeoAmerica.com. under scholarships tab on our website page, missrodeoamerica.com, and scholarship at Miss Rodeo America is, we do PayPal, but Dorie Tucker, you can call me or get me on Facebook or whatever, but missrodeoamerica.com. And then there's the scholarship tabs. I currently am kind of trying to develop partnerships with people that would like to walk alongside. Of course, we take endowments and people that are trying to plan their
Right
there she
right
is.
in the middle.
There she is.
Well, she's a smoke show.
Listen, she's a great girl.
Where's she from?
Kennedy Riggs is from Queen Creek, Arizona, and I had the privilege of judging their contest in September and met her and her family. And she is a delight. And she's got her platform as Miss Rodeo America. She had started as Kicking Up Kindness, and that's what her her platform.
Is she a single lady? Because that's what everybody's going to say when they see her.
They're all single. But let me just tell you, we ain't just beautiful, She's got a heritage of Western in her life, and she's a charming young woman. But
there's some guy in an office in New York City that's going to see her and think, I need to take that country girl home.
No, wait a minute. I've got a second daughter that's kind of Georgianne. She's gonna.
So you're going to try to set her up on the line.
She's going to kill me.
So you have a single daughter that's looking for a man. Is that what you're saying?
So I'm going to tell GA no. But they're older gals. Yeah, she's going to kill me for that. But it's a great program. And so I just kind of, to use someone else's phrase, not on purpose, but I circled back to that in life and have become involved that because of my mother's inability to complete or to stay on that board, they asked me to come on the Scholarship Foundation board. And so I've done that for now 4 years. I think I've been in that capacity. So I
think it is a wonderful organization. I think you're doing good. I like the part that no man can be in Miss Rodeo America because there's not much of that left in America.
Yeah. And we're patriotic. We're red, white, and blue, bleed red or purple in my case. But
you probably pray before events.
We absolutely do.
And by gosh, that's good. And probably say the Pledge of Allegiance.
We carry a flag around the arena and it looks pretty darn good.
At Turkey, did I tell you they did that at Turkey?
Turkey Fest? No,
prayed every morning before Turkey Convention, and they had the Pledge of Allegiance every day. God bless America.
Cody Johnson, the Western singer, country Western singer, he was the entertainment during the American rodeo down there in Dallas-Fort Worth weekend before last, and he opened the show with prayer.
Really?
Yes. Great guy.
What they need to do.
You need Kojo on here. You need Cody Johnson.
Do you know Cody?
Yeah, I find him.
All right, get a hold of him for us. We'll have him on here.
Oh, he'd be great.
We appreciate you being on here.
It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a good time.
Almost
been a great
3 hours.
We're not done.
Well, we'll do another one in 6 months.
So I'm just going to go invite myself for Cheap Fill Day. When
there
you
you
need
go.
it, you can call me.
Be
I'd
a lot
love
of fun.
to. Thank you
We'll
so
have you
much
on
for
again.
the time.
Thank you very
to,
much.
Yeah.
Been a great story.
Yeah. MissRodeoAmerica.com scholarships.
Yep.
Easy enough.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all for listening to us. Come by and see us at Knoxville. Get Andy's autograph. Buy him a beer. He said he'll drink whatever one you buy.
Can I have an autograph? Andy built my cabinets in my office, so I mean,
people don't know Andy does real work.
Tony did.
Are they
Tony did.
charging
I
for
just
that?
Tony did. I just stained them. So
poor Tony. Where is Tony?
Tony is working on turkey blinds right now. I just talked to him on the phone. I got to run to town real quick.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya. Bye.
Boys and girls, go check out all of our great sponsors and go participate. Go donate to Dories Foundation. Mossberg, Boss Shot Shelves, Dive Bomb Ministries, Pacific Calls, Gundog Outdoors, Shin Gear Waders, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Podcast, Hunt Proof App, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Bangtail Whiskey, Stanfield Outfitters, Dirty Duck Coffee, Ducks Unlimited, Double T British Chemist.